Zeke, the trashiest, shortest, motherless, and weakest in the family, stood against Leo, this freckled fag, who they say is a prodigy and that in the past life folded our boy until he begged to stop hitting so hard like a good girl. But now Zeke knows this dude pulled some strings to make this duel happen so he could humiliate him because he has direct bloodline with the main family, even though they are cousins. In his past life, he couldn't even compete with the 4 menaces of the main family, but he was constantly bullied by the 12 cousins, one of them being Freckles. Zeke, you haven't learned your lesson. Trash like you shouldn't come up here. But our boy shrugs and then replies that he will rearrange Leo's face if he says something like that again. The guy just gives him a head pat, saying that a short trash like him has no chance in this family. Boom, suddenly bro just got hit by a critical strike. Freckles, bitch, is agonizing with pain, while the organizer shouts that he hadn't announced the start of the fight. Zeke just replies that no one shouts ready in a battlefield. Dude took one because he was distracted. The referee feels a chill. With that Leo an asterisk 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 a bloodlust. Then Freckles tells him that it's fine. He will show why Zeke is an inferior piece of trash. Fight starts, and Freckles rushes. He feels some punches, but is confused since Zeke's attacks were doing 0 damage. Sure, he just took damage because his guard was low. Right there, he notices Zeke closing his left fist, and Dan bro went to give him head. Full smile on face saying he will show what he's capable of, until suddenly he feels dazed. He releases Zeke, who thinks that it seems this wasn't enough. The referee is shocked though how this 12-year-old boy has so much combat sense. The moment Freckles went to give him some head, he was sure it was done, but Zeke protected his manhood and hit a clutch knee hammer to the guy's mouth. Seeing our cutie boy, he's confused if this is the same Zeke Draker he knew. Now Freckles acquired labyrinthitis at this young age and has no sense of balance. Mercilessly, Zeke delivers the low calf kick, and the dude is confused on how such a small body can hit so hard. My girlfriend said the same. He gets back on feet and tries to deliver, but Lil Bro is on that Peter Parker heightened senses and can easily see the punch, so he dives under it, grabbing Freckles' arms and slams him to the ground with an elbow to the chest. The whole arena is taken over by the sound of Freckles' ribs breaking, but this dude is thirsty, so he delivers another one and another one, while the referee and the other cousins of the family tremble in fear. Bro transforms the young thug into a pulp of blood, then fixed his hair and said that now that he's sweated a bit, those who have something to say can come down. You gotta know that this dude Zeke was the first in the whole Drake family that failed to awaken, and after years of suffering, he finally found a relic to awaken his powers. But unfortunately, he was exhausted, and the Northern gang was face to face. They flipped a coin saying that would share turns to torture Zeke, but while it was mid-air, he beheaded the first one in a second. The second one also got a blade whip to its chest. But bad part though is that the whole team is here. Everyone was confused on how he reattached his arm. For a night, healing magic was disgusting and ugly, so the second round began, and after I scrolled down to the next panel, bro was just a skewer, coughing 20 organs, and sure, he was about to die. Good part, he at least stole the relic the Emperor wanted so badly, and when he was ready for that eternal nap, the relic suddenly glowed. An ancient dragon sealed on it recognized his efforts and will to persist. A goddess appeared on his ears, and next second, bro woke up as the Shore King Cutie Pie we know. Before he could understand anything, the door opened and the butler Decker told him to get ready. Bro was confused on where he was and where he was supposed to go, and the dude instantly questioned if he was really Zeke. God damn it, fucking butler is Sherlock or something. But bro, composed mind skill calmed him down, and he remembered that today was the family big test. Right now he was living in the cradle, a place his family created to train the future geniuses. A bunch of old men grooming these old boys. That's basically RPG Epstein, since the kids had no choice but to fight with all they had. And there was the little menace about to fold Freckles, while everyone just laughed saying he was a poor loser. So pathetic no one could believe he had direct bloodline. Now fast forward after bro dropped the first body and called everyone to throw hands. But despite our boy absolutely demolishing that last guy, there are still some brain dead idiots who apparently didn't get the lesson. And the biggest idiot of them all? This clown is named Jekken Vartuk. This dude steps up all confident, challenging Zeke to a match. He's practically vibrating with cockiness, ready to prove he's built different. But Zeke? Man's just standing there looking bored as hell. Like, really? Just you? So, you know what our boy does? He straight up tells Jekken bro, you're gonna need backup of this to even be entertaining. And then he calls out another student by name, Liam Stone, who's Jekken's personal bodyguard. Zeke's basically saying, you're so trash you need a 2v1 just to make this interesting for me. Jekken's ego is shattered. The thought of needing help to beat Zeke is the ultimate humiliation, and he's absolutely not having it. But Zeke keeps poking the bear, talking that good shit, and now Jekken's seeing red, ready to shut him up permanently. As they step into the arena, the instructor gives Zeke this death glare and warns him, don't you dare move before I give the signal. Zeke just smirks because guess what? Jekken actually did bring his servant along after all, which makes this even more fun. Now, here's the thing about Liam in his past life. This dude was an absolute legend. We're talking the mercenary king level of badass. Back in the day, he served under Jekken Jekken and enrolled in the Cradle Academy. But since he was just some distant relative, nobody gave a damn about his education. So the guy begged and pleaded for a chance to study at Academy Valhalla, but ended up in the Night Order of some tiny-ass nation called Baron instead. When Baron got wiped off the map, Liam became a mercenary. And in those chaotic times, strength attracted followers like crazy. With years of battlefield experience under his belt, he rose to fame as a Red Knight and eventually founded the Stone Mercenaries. The man united the three biggest mercenary factions and earned his title as the Mercenary King fair and square. Later, when the Empire hired his crew, Liam entered the Continental Wars, where he became one of the Northerners' worst nightmares. But this time around, Zeke's determined to change that story completely. The second the instructor gives the signal, Jekken charges forward, throwing this massive punch that literally disturbs the air around it. But Zeke doesn't even blink. He catches that shit with one hand like it's nothing. Jekken yanks his hand back and tries a kick instead, but oh man, this backfires spectacularly. The moment his leg connects, pain shoots through him. He hits Zeke's reinforced barrier around his elbow and basically damaged himself. Before he can even process what just happened, Zeke's already charging in, his fist glowing with an activated skill, ready to end this man's whole career. Jekken panics and throws his arms over his face to block. But here's the thing, Zeke was never aiming for his face. Our boy goes straight for that already injured leg and delivers a brutal blow. And before Jekken can even scream, Zeke follows up with a crushing punch to the ribs that makes him cough up blood. The once cocky fighter is now face planting the ground, screaming at his sidekick to finish Zeke off immediately. Now it's Liam's turn, and you can feel the shift in the air. This man's radiating straight up killing intent as he steps forward. The worst part, his reach is insane. If Zeke lets him throw the first punch, this fight could go sideways real quick. So, knowing this, Zeke takes the initiative and launches into a rapid assault. He activates a skill called Slash and moves so fast he's literally a blur, unleashing this relentless storm of punches. The speed completely messes with Liam's vision, forcing him onto the defensive. The spectators watching from the sidelines absolutely losing their minds. True despair is washing over them as they witness just how much of an absolute unit Zeke is. They're confused and curious, because in a world where swords are king, a dude who fights with just his fists is practically unheard of. Zeke's technique is undeniably impressive, but it's also taking a serious toll on his body. But that's not even the biggest problem. The real challenge is Liam's monstrous physique. This man's just standing there with his guard up, tanking every single hit. If he's this resilient now, imagine how terrifying he must have been when he ruled as the Mercenary King. Realizing his attacks aren't making enough of a dent, Zeke decides to go all in. He channels everything into one final devastating strike, one that'll break through Liam's defense no matter what. But just as he launches it, Liam dodges it with ease. He just redirects the strike like swatting a fly. The sheer audacity pisses Zeke off. Before he can react, Liam seizes the opening end, hoists him high into the air, about to slam him into the ground, but Zeke refuses to go down without a fight. Thinking fast, he delivers a sharp strike to Liam's head, and his class skill heightened sense activates, letting him capitalize on the moment. In an instant, he locks his legs around Liam's neck in a chokehold, cutting off his air supply. Because no matter how absurdly strong you are, you can't fight if oxygen isn't reaching your brain. But Zeke underestimated his opponent because instead of going down, Liam decided to reshape our boy's face with countless punches. But Zeke's plan worked eventually. Liam's strength started to fade. His movements got sluggish and at last he collapsed. And the crowd can't believe what just happened. Everyone is terrified of our boy. We'll accept this crackhead, who for some reason is now more pumped to fight our boy. So, a few hours later, our boy's chilling in his room when his butler walks in, already having heard the tea about the match. This old man immediately goes into worried parent mode, asking if Zeke's okay. But Zeke just brushes him off like, "Bro, I'm fine, relax." But the butler's not having it. He straight up ignores Zeke and insists on checking his pulse anyway. Now Zeke's no idiot. He knows exactly what this sneaky bastard is really up to. This isn't just a wellness check. Homeboy's trying to see if Zeke's awake in his aura yet. So Zeke extends his hand, and the servant channels this stream of blue energy into him. The second Zeke sees it, he does a full double take. Hold up, is this random butler a blue knight? Because imbuing someone else with aura is already hard as hell. But controlling it with this much precision, that's next level stuff. If this old man really is a blue knight, that raises one massive question. What the hell is someone of his caliber doing playing house servant? Quick breakdown of the knight hierarchy. So you're not confused, white swordsmen are the bottom tier. Basically kids before they get their blessing ritual. Yellow swordsmen are newbies who just awaken their aura. Then you got purple knights who can reinforce their swords with aura. Blue knights who can manifest actual aura blades. Red knights who've transcended their limits. This is what both Liam and Zeke hit before the regression. And finally black knights who are basically mythical legends. There's only a handful of them in the entire continent. So yeah, having a blue knight as your personal babysitter is absolutely wild. After finishing his little examination, the old man goes all serious and asks, "Is there something you're hiding?" Zeke doesn't even flinch. My boy keeps his poker face on and flips the question right back at him. do you know something I don't? Before things get too intense, Zeke laughs it off and says he was joking. But the butler can't help himself and asks, why have you changed so much? That question makes Zeke stop in his tracks. He turns around with those sharp eyes and hits him with, you're asking the wrong question. Instead of asking why I've changed now, ask why it took me so damn long to change in the first place. Then our boy tells him this is just the beginning. There are way more surprises coming, so instead of losing his mind every 5 seconds, just shut up and follow orders. The servant bows and reports that the training room Zeke requested is ready. On his way to the training hall, Zeke's brain is working overtime trying to figure out who ordered his butler to spy on him. But whatever, he's going to use this situation to his advantage. Keep the old man close, manipulate him, and squeeze out whatever info he needs. It's probably not anyone from his mom's side since they wouldn't dare, which means it's gotta be one of his siblings pulling strings. When he walks into the training room, Zeke's actually stunned for a second because this place is ridiculously fancy. Before getting started, he decides to check the system. With one command, the panel pops up in front of him. Right off the bat, he notices his /skill hit proficiency level. Must have leveled up from spamming it during the fight. Then his eyes land on the Draconian's skill, but it's locked and locking it needs 10 karma points, and he's sitting at a big fat 0. A system message pops up saying he can earn karma points by killing monsters in dungeons. Well, he can't do that unless he's a purple knight, so that's out of the question for now. Plus, the thing he's most curious about is his regression, and what the hell is this system? Without more info, there's no point in overthinking it. He grips his sword tight. Whether it's through this system or his Draco bloodline, he's going to use everything to get stronger. It's time for some more info. There are 2 main power systems: aura for knights and mana for mages. Knights refine aura in dungeons. Mages build up mana through circles. And as you would expect, if you awaken one path, you permanently lose the other forever. Unlike everyone else in his household, Zeke awakened neither a dantian nor a circle, which basically marked him as a total failure and got him abandoned. After getting tossed aside, he wandered around until he met his master, who taught him the Ether Hall technique, a way to harness nature's energy called ether. To this day, only he and his master can use it, which makes him pretty unique. After 2 hours of non-stop training, Zeke's about to collapse when his class skills Healing and Vigor Recovery suddenly activate. Now healing is crazy rare, and if anyone saw him using it, they'd immediately label him as some kind of freak. That's exactly why he didn't use it against Liam. He only healed himself once. He was safely back in his room. With his body fully restored, he goes right back to grinding. By the time dawn rolls around, the entire training hall looks like a war zone. A week flies by, and inside the Cradle cafeteria, students are gossiping about how Zeke's like a completely different person since he was born a loser in their eyes. Their only explanation is black magic or demon possession or some wild shit like that. Meanwhile, in a private lounge, the Academy's elite are having dinner together. First up is Reina Tarun eating in silence. Next to her sits Owen Zimmons looking all calm and proper, and across from him is Jekken still beat up but loud as ever. Owen tells Jekken to eat properly since he's got a swordsmanship duel coming up, but Jekken slams his fist on the table so hard his steak literally flies off and hits the ground. The impact also makes Reina's steak jump off her plate, which instantly pisses her off. Her death Blair alone makes Jekken freeze up. All 4 of these students have one thing in common: they absolutely hate Zeke's guts. But even with their shared hatred, it's obvious they don't actually like each other either. The only thing keeping this toxic friend group together is their mutual grudge against him. Owen admits Zeke was impressive during pancreation, but he's convinced that in swordsmanship, Zeke's going to be absolute trash. After all, the dude doesn't even know how to hold a sword properly. One of them brings up how pathetic he must be. The man needed a customized sword because standard ones were too heavy for his weak ass. Jekken still can't wrap his head around losing to that inferior piece of trash. He refuses to believe Zeke won through actual skill. It had to be dumb luck, but Reina doesn't buy into their delusions. She looks at them with those cold eyes and says, if you idiots actually believe that nonsense, then none of you deserve to be knights of the Draker household. Now, if you're sitting there wondering why these clowns were so confident Zeke would get destroyed in swordsmanship, let me give you some context. Unlike pancreation, where things are somewhat controlled, sword duels are fought with real weapons, which is exactly why they're the #1 cause of injuries at this academy. This is where the skill gap becomes painfully obvious, and weak fighters get exposed real quick. A month after these finals, the blessing ritual will go down. That's when Drokers awaken their aura. Until then, these duels are the ultimate proving ground. The day finally arrives and the instructor calls Zeke forward. Our boy steps into the arena without hesitation, casually resting this massive sword over his shoulder. This blade is so ridiculously big that the crowd immediately bursts out laughing, thinking this has to be some kind of joke. To them, it's obvious what's happening. Zeke's one of those idiots who thinks bigger equals better, that the sheer size will somehow give him an advantage. From the other side, Reina steps up, fully pumped and ready to go. With this dramatic ass motion, she throws down the gauntlet, officially challenging Zeke. He accepts without even thinking twice, but something about him throws her off. Watching him effortlessly lift that massive claymore, she realizes this isn't the same pathetic Zeke she remembers. The old Zeke could barely hold a sword without embarrassing himself, but now, his whole presence is different, sharper, more intense. For just a split second, she actually feels intimidated, which immediately pisses her off. She's disgusted with herself for even having that thought, but she already issued the challenge and is backing down now. That's not happening. Meanwhile, Zeke's also feeling the pressure because his usual bag of tricks won't cut it here. This isn't just some random duel. This is a fight against the future Lightning Knight, and that's genuinely scary. In her past life, Reina Turuan became an absolute legend during the Continental Wars, earning her spot as one of the strongest warriors of her generation. Unlike most people, she awakened her aura years before the blessing ritual, a feat that put her in a completely different league. Even though she has this rare gift, she never used her aura inside Cradle, choosing instead to master the fundamentals like a true warrior. But that doesn't make her any less dangerous. The duel kicks off, and their swords crash together in a shower of sparks, neither one backing down. After that first clash, Reina quickly steps back before charging in again. With one powerful strike, she forces Zeke to slide backward. That one exchange tells him everything he needs to know. She's even better than he expected. Without wasting a second, Reina lunges again, her blade moving at insane speed, each swing crackling through the air like lightning. In the background, her so-called allies are getting impatient, yelling, "Just finish this loser already." But one guy who's actually paying attention shuts them down real quick. "You idiots need to open your eyes. She's not the one pushing him back, he's pushing her." From Reina's perspective, she can clearly see openings in Zeke's defense, weak spots she should be exploiting. But every single time she moves to strike those gaps, her attack gets blocked, and that's what's pissing her off the most. It's like this isn't even a real duel to him. It's a damn training session. Every time she lands a hit, he creates another opening, basically inviting her to attack again, challenging her to actually break through his defense. After several intense exchanges, she steps back, breathing heavily and exhausted. But Zeke, man's not even remotely tired. In fact, he looks straight up bored. She's fighting with everything she's got, holding back her aura to rely purely on skill, which is exactly what he expected from someone obsessed with mastering the basics. But now he decides it's time to help her break out of her comfort zone. Zeke dramatically lowers his stance, making it look like he's about to explosively close the distance. Reina, confident in her speed, doesn't think much of it. She's sure that maintaining distance will let her react in time to whatever he's planning. But in literally the blink of an eye, Zeke closes the gap completely, and suddenly he's right up in her face. Before her brain can even process what just happened, he swings that massive sword with enough force to crack the ground beneath them, sending shockwaves rippling through the entire arena. Still, Reina holds onto her strategy as long as there's space between them. She can counter his attacks. Then Zeke swings his sword through completely empty air. At first, it looks like a total whiff, a complete miss, but that wasn't the point. The sheer force of the swing sends debris flying straight into her face, smacking her right in the nose and leaving it bruised and bloody. The second she flinches from the impact, Zeke charges in with his sword aimed directly at her and stops just centimeters from her neck. In that moment, she's absolutely certain this is it. She's done. Game over. But then something completely unexpected happens. Zeke's sword suddenly flies out of his hands, landing several feet away. The crowd absolutely loses their minds, declaring him the loser and celebrating Reina's victory without her even needing to use her aura. But one person isn't buying any of this bullshit. The instructor clearly saw what happened. He caught her using aura even though it was super faint. She definitely used it, but these clueless idiots in the crowd didn't notice a damn thing. Here's what went down. As Zeke's blade got way too close for comfort, Reina instinctively let out this tiny burst of aura, barely there but enough. Now, why does this matter? Because Reina literally swore on her honor that she wouldn't touch her aura until she officially got into the academy, and Zeke just forced her to break that promise. She just stands there for a second, completely frozen with doubt and regret all over her face. Then out of nowhere Zeke rushes at her again. Before she can even think about what's happening, his fist connects straight to her throat. She starts choking immediately, dropping to her knees as blood starts dripping from her mouth. The crowd lost their absolute minds and started cursing. Our boy, yo, this was a sword duel. That's straight up a cheap shot. This dude's got no shame. Everyone flips on Zeke instantly, pointing fingers and talking mad shit. But my boy doesn't even bat an eye. He's completely unbothered by all the hate and just calmly looks down at Reina and goes, "So are you trying to keep going or what?" Reina is still struggling to even stand up properly, but she's stubborn as hell and insists she didn't lose, saying the only reason he got that hit in was because she wasn't paying attention. But then reality smacks her in the face. If Zeke had a knife in his hand instead of his bare fist, she'd be straight up dead right now. 6 feet under. That thought alone makes everything click. With some actual respect for once, she admits defeat. The same crowd that was clowning Zeke and calling him human garbage literally seconds ago, now they're all standing there in complete shock, mouths hanging open. Zeke Draker, the guy they've been calling the family disgrace and absolute trash, just won clean as hell. And he didn't beat some random nobody either. He just bodied Reina Turuan, the future Lightning Knight and one of the most talented fighters in their generation. So we cut to Abel's castle and everything's everything's a mess. The town's on fire. People are bleeding out everywhere. And this psychopath is just casually sipping tea. But Abel's not even paying attention to the chaos. He's too busy reading a letter about how Zeke Draker just bodied Reina. He puts down his cup and asks about when the blessing ceremony is happening. Turns out the full moon's still a few weeks away. So Abel decides, you know what? Perfect time to crash the Draker family party. William's standing there like, bro, you're going alone? But Abel doesn't give a damn. This renowned sword master is high to see the youngest Draker's awakening with his own eyes. Meanwhile, everyone else is losing their minds celebrating Zeke's win. Our boy's already back to the grind. He doesn't care about parties or praise. He just goes straight back to training. Days pass, weeks fly by, and boom. A whole month later, it's finally time for the blessing ceremony. But Zeke's still sitting there wondering, how the hell did I become a red knight in my past life with that trash body? After finishing his workout, he pulls up his status window. And sure enough, his mastery skill hits the expert level. But here's where it gets interesting. Every time his skill ranks up, the mastery resets, which means he can keep refining them over and over. Even his swift step skill, the same move he used to demolish Reina, leveled up. He notices his butler, Decker, watching him like a hawk. Decker walks over and tells him it's time to get ready. They're leaving for the blessing ceremony in 2 hours. It's been forever since Zeke visited the Draker family's main estate in the Duchy of Troy. The family's main crib is at the center of the continent, but the blessing ceremony happens at the legendary Dragon Slayer battleground. When he arrives and steps out of the carriage, he walks into the Dragon's Nest lair and immediately realizes this isn't some casual family gathering. The room's packed with vibes. We're talking serious, heavy hitters here. Some of them are definitely spies sent just to observe him. But our boys already know how everything is going to go. But then his confidence evaporates the second he locks eyes with one particular man. Someone who makes his blood boil just by existing. It's Abel, shaking hands with some random guest, looking bored as hell. Abel doesn't care about the ceremony itself except, for one thing, his youngest brother. See, the Draker family's second son is known as the Lionblade, but Zeke knows him by a way more accurate name, the Butchering Knight. Standing face to face with his older brother, Zeke forces himself to stay calm, because right now there's jack shit he can do about it. Here's the thing though, in his previous life, Abel never showed up to Zeke's awakening ceremony, which means his actions at the pancreation competition changed the timeline. He clenches his fists, frustrated, but then realizes something important. This change might actually be an opportunity. Soon enough, the ceremony kicks off. Aaron's called up first to do the ritual. He walks up without hesitation and sticks his arm into this mystical pool. Immediately, blue energy starts surging through his body. Some elder starts explaining how every Draker descendant has their aura sealed until they graduate from the cradle at age 12, and this awakening process is what makes them special. Compared to regular knights who can only awaken in their 20s, the Draker bloodline gets this power way earlier. But even among the Draker elite, only a few awaken a special trait called mana inhibition, the Dragon Slayer's signature ability. The mana lamps around the pool start flickering like crazy, shooting out red sparks everywhere. That's the sign Aaron just got a pure blood awakening. Knights with mana inhibition can go toe-to-toe with even red and black knights, but there's a catch. Their bodies become so resistant to mana that everyday life becomes a nightmare. They need special gloves made by the Draker family just to function normally. Case in point, Ryu already went through her awakening, is wearing gloves 24-7 now. Once someone proves their pure blood, they officially become part of the Draker family and get unlimited resources, authority, and top-tier training. The crowd starts buzzing because it's finally time for the main event, Zeke Draker's awakening. Whispers are flying everywhere. People genuinely believe his awakening is going to surpass even Reina's. As Zeke steps forward, he gets hit with major deja vu. He stood in this exact spot before. In his past life, this day brought him nothing but shame and humiliation. The blessing ceremony was the only thing that let him stay in the cradle, but the experience left him destroyed. But now, everything's different. He's not weak anymore. He learned to heal, control ether, and actually fight. He built resilience, strength, and the willpower to forge his own path. So as he stands before the bronze statue, he's filled with anticipation, expecting it to grant him something incredible this time. Zeke dips his arm into the pool, and the bronze statue immediately starts shaking violently before suddenly stopping. The entire room goes dead silent. This has never happened before. Not once in the entire history of the blessing ceremony. Even Abel looks speechless for a second. Zeke pulls his arm back and he already knows what happened. Nothing changed. Despite everything, all his effort, all his growth, the results are the same. He let Abel's presence mess with his head and convinced himself this time would be different. But deep down, he knew the truth all along. The crowd erupts into whispers, their initial hype turning into straight-up mockery. The most anticipated candidate just failed to awaken. Sneers spread through the room. A direct descendant of the Draker bloodline showing no signs of awakening? It doesn't make sense. The whispers get harsher. Some people even start questioning his victory over Reina, convinced he must have used tricks or cheated somehow. But Zeke, he couldn't give less of a damn. Instead of wasting time worrying about their judgment, he turns turns his focus inward, determined to find another way to get stronger. Then out of nowhere, the system glitches out and interrupts his thoughts. Like, yo, my bad, we actually forgot some pretty important info about your class identification. Zeke's just standing there like, what? But before he can even wrap his head around what's happening, the system keeps going. Inputs complete now. Terminal identification successful. User talent confirmed, healer. And just like that, power starts flooding through his body. His class finally unlocks for real this time. But then another message pops up out of nowhere. Rare class unlocked. The second that appears, the bronze statue just explodes with light. Not just any light either. Red light. And if you know anything about this world, red light means one thing. Pure blood awakening. The entire chamber lose their damn minds. Everyone's gasping, freaking out, and asking each other how the hell this is even possible. Like, this dude just skipped straight to red knight status? That's not supposed to happen. The system digs deeper, connecting with something buried deep in Zeke's soul. Turns out it's the ancient dragon's blessing that's been hiding in there this whole time. Meanwhile, Abel's watching all of this go down, and his face is completely blank. But wait, there's more, because apparently the system wasn't finished clowning yet. Zeke's existing talents start glowing and merging together, transforming into something completely different. His screen updates one final time, and when he sees the new title, even he's confused. It reads, Unique Class Unlocked, the Immortal. So while our boy's trying to wrap his head around what the hell this new class even is, the whole room's absolutely losing it. People are straight up having mental breakdowns like, wait, wasn't Zeke supposed to be complete garbage? How the hell did this dude pull off a red awakening? Some desperate bastards are trying to convince themselves the statue's busted, but then someone's like, okay, but how do you explain the mana lamps going crazy? They're scrambling for any excuse to call it fake, but even they know they're full of shit. That's what Abel decides it's his time to shine. He starts the slow mocking clap that just cuts through all the chaos with the most condescending tone imaginable. He's like, why isn't anyone congratulating our newly awakened pureblood? Everyone knows they're stuck. So one by one, the whispers die down and get replaced by this awkward forced applause. Abel demands someone grab gloves for his little brother. Zeke takes them, but he's internally rolling his eyes because he knows damn well he doesn't need this. Without saying a word, he just turns around and walks off. Abel's looking all smug and satisfied, but Zeke, man's absolutely fuming. Out of everyone who could have stepped in, it had to be that bastard Abel. The ceremony shifts into some celebration party, but Zeke wants absolutely nothing to do with. It's just as he's about to dip, someone calls his name. He stops dead in his tracks. Abel casually asks where he's heading, then extends his hand to congratulate him. Look, Zeke hates Abel with every fiber of his being, but rejecting the handshake in front of this whole crowd would start unnecessary beef. So he forces this fake-ass polite smile and reaches out, then freezes. A flash of blood slams into his mind, a memory from his past life. His body reacts before his brain can process it, and he yanks his hand back. This slow, creepy smirk spreads across Abel's face. Well, this is awkward. Looks like my dear little brother just embarrassed me in front of everyone. Zeke's jaw clenches. There's no way in hell he's shaking hands with this monster. Not after everything that went down, but Abel barely gives a shit. With a little wave, he turns away. No worries. I'm sure we'll see each other real soon. Zeke agrees with that. One day he'll face Abel, but it'll be on his own damn terms. Not like this. At the party, all the nobles and warriors are buzzing like crazy. 2 pure blood awakenings in one ceremony? That's literally never happened before. But Zeke's awakening has everyone confused as hell. Nobody's ever seen a golden light pop up, yet despite being the main character of the night, Zeke's nowhere to be found. Our boy said screw this, and dipped, choosing peace and quiet over fake-ass small talk with these clowns. He's chilling in some quiet room, finally able to breathe, but something's off. He's not feeling any mana inhibition at all. And if you are wondering why that's a big deal, well, because pure blood awakenings are supposed to completely reject mana, right? That's literally the whole thing. Every pure blood awakener needs those special gloves, since their bodies can't interact with mana-based tools anymore. Yet here's Zeke, completely fine. He takes off his gloves and flexes his fingers. Nothing. Zero resistance. His status window pops up, and he spots the difference immediately. His trait isn't mana inhibition, it's mana reflection. He taps it for the details, and a system window pops up with info, generates a distortion field that nullifies nearby mana. Unlike mana inhibition, this skill isn't passive, and doesn't mess with standard mana readings. Oh shit, that explains everything. The mana lamps didn't react to him because he's not rejecting mana. He's literally distorting it. Then there's his class. Before the ceremony, the system had him labeled as some rare class healer. But now, class, the Immortal. What the hell does that even mean? None of this adds up. At the graduation ceremony, every single Draker Awakener came out with a blue aura standard boring results. The only exception was Reyna, who awakened as a red knight. And now there's him with this golden light, a class called the Immortal, and a trait that's not supposed to exist in the first place. Zeke starts putting the pieces together. The system flagged missing information about classification during his awakening. What if the system treated the bronze statue as the classification terminal? The second that missing data got injected, the statue went absolutely crazy, glowing glowing red and everything. It's all starting to click now. The statue wasn't there to check if someone awakened, it was judging their class the whole time. Red glow means rare class, gold means unique. The statue is some ancient relic that existed way before Tehran, the founder of the whole Regressor family. These days class identification isn't even a thing anymore, which is what led to this massive fuck up. Everyone assumed red light meant pure blood awakening, but nah, it actually meant rare class. Even the current head of the clan has no clue about this. Zeke notices something else. He got 100 karma points during the ceremony. He doesn't waste a second and buys the draconian skill. Knowledge just floods into his brain. He gets several beginner abilities. Dragon Eyes might have the dragon and devour. The first two make sense, but devour only helps with digestion, which sounds useless as hell. Might have the dragon needs aura to work, making it way too risky right now, so he tests Dragon Eyes first. At first glance, nothing seems different, until he looks outside, staring at the statue in the garden. He realizes the skill cranks up his vision like crazy, but that's not even the best part. He can pull up detailed information about anything he looks at. Data just rushes through his head, showing him intricate details about the statue's composition and everything, but the sheer amount of information completely fries his brain, leaving him drained. If every use comes with this kind of drawback, he's going to have to be real careful with it. Thankfully, his body's natural healing kicks in on autopilot. He didn't even try to activate it, it just happened. Checking the system again, he finds another surprise. All his class skills converted into passive abilities and already leveled up on their own. His healing factor evolved too. It now repairs his body automatically without him having to do anything. While it seems overpowered as hell, it's not unlimited, otherwise he wouldn't have died in his past life. To test it out, he grabs a blade and lightly cuts his arm. Within seconds, the wound just vanishes without leaving a single trace. Then a smile appears on his face. He knows how broken this ability is. Well, just to put it into perspective, it's so broken that now our boy thinks that he can graduate from the academy in 2 years, which usually takes 5. And for good reasons. The Drucker Academy is basically the Harvard of night schools. Everyone and their mom wants to get in. Every semester, Troy City gets flooded with fresh meat, hoping to make it big. Our boy Zeke's walking through campus, sizing everyone up. And yeah, the upperclassmen are walking around like they own the place, acting all mature and capable. But compared to the absolute monsters from the cradle, these kids are just trust fund babies playing dress up with swords. Zeke's looking at all this, thinking, man, my family is seriously fucked up. Now let me break down the power structure real quick. There are 3 main branch families backing the Drucker lineage, and they're kind of a big deal. First up, you got the Turin family. These guys are all about that raw strength, and that's Rena's squad. Then there's the Zimmons family, the big brain nerds who run on wisdom and strategy. And finally, the Vardek, the Lannisters of this fantasy world. All their heirs are at the academy, but Z couldn't care less about any of them. Cut to this fancy-ass dorm called Platinum Mansion. We're talking top-tier training halls, libraries, and facilities, but those fancy things are for the peasants. The pure-blood awakeners like Zeke get the VIP treatment, with the title of floor master, which basically means they run the whole Platinum floor. When Zeke rolls up, some maid greets him and takes him to his area, where there's already a crowd waiting. Man's already exhausted just looking at them. Despite being this prestigious pure-blood awakener, he immediately gets told that Decker, his butler, needs to see him in another room. So he's like, what does this guy want now? Decker shows him some premium gloves, the same ones he got when he first awakened. Zeke's already got a new pair though, so he's not impressed. What he really wants is a sword. Decker's totally on board with this because Troy's right next to some mountain ranges that are basically treasure troves of high-quality iron. And the craftsmen there? Absolute legends. These guys are basically the backbone of the Academy's night program. Decker offers to hook him up with a skilled craftsman, but Zeke's like, nah, I got this. He wants to handle it personally and asks Decker to just set up an appointment. When he drops the name Galleon Halbert, even Decker's like, who the hell is that? This craftsman is so mysterious that literally nobody's heard of him, but Zeke's determined to meet him anyway. Before leaving, Decker reminds him to actually read the Academy documents before class tomorrow, because you know, that might be important. Later that night, Zeke's grinding through his notes when he has this lightbulb moment. The entire Platinum floor is his, like all of it, which means he's got the perfect space to train his draconian skills without anyone bothering him. Just then a maid enters telling him that Reyna wants him to come to dinner. Zeke's cut off guard, but figures why not? Free food and all that. When he gets to a floor though, he walks into what looks like a scene straight out of The Godfather. Reyna's there smirking, apologizing for the dramatic setup, but Zeke's just vibing with it. They agree to eat first and talk business later. While they're eating, Zeke's not just chowing down, he's analyzing her. Even during a casual dinner, this girl's channeling aura into her lower abdomen. Our boy immediately connects the dots. She's gunning for purple knight status, and if that's the case, it makes total sense why her swordsmanship is already maxed out. In his head, he's thinking she could be doing way more with that kind of potential. By the time they finish, Zeke's low-key impressed, and maybe a little intimidated by how much more Reyna ate than him. But now that the food coma's setting in, she's ready to drop the real reason she invited him. Reyna's just straight up offers him the full backing of the Turuan family. Zeke's like, hold up, we're both pure-blood awakeners though? But she shuts that down real quick, telling him he's got it twisted. Sure, being a pure-blood awakener comes with perks. The platinum floor, the prestige, all that good stuff. But while regular students get access to centuries of knowledge, personal instructors, and all these structured training programs, purebloods are basically left to figure shit out on their own. Without proper support, even the most talented awakeners can end up falling behind. To prove her point, she brings up Evil Draker, a pureblood from their family who became a white knight at the youngest age ever recorded. Now he's one of the strongest black knights around, and even he needed the Zimmons family backing him up. Then she drops the bomb. The Turuan family patriarch gave her direct orders to extend their full support to Zeke. She's sitting there expecting him to see reason and accept this incredible opportunity. But our boy, Zeke, he just calmly says, nah, I'm good. Reina's absolutely shook. She cannot comprehend how anyone would turn down this kind of deal. Zeke gets up and makes it crystal clear. He's not interested in alliances or politics or any of that drama. As far as he's concerned, being a pure-blood awakener is one thing, but all this family politics BS? Not his problem. And with that, he just walks out, leaving Reina sitting there like, did this dude really just reject me? But because Zeke's not a complete asshole, he decides to throw her a bone for the free meal. He tells her that her sword's too powerful, probably because of all those people backing her. But that's not where her real strength is. Her actual talent? Adaptability. Instead of just smashing through opponents with brute force, she should focus on using her fluid movements to redirect attacks and then strike with one precise hit when the opening appears. If she masters that approach, she'll blast past her current limits easily. Then, he dips, leaving Reina absolutely frustrated. Her whole life, she's been grinding under the weight of her family's legacy of raw strength training, her ass off to live up to the Turuan name. But Zeke's actually right. Nobody's ever given her real advice before. Since she was a kid, everyone just called her a genius and left it at that. Praised but never actually guided. And now this random dude just casually dropped some wisdom and walked away like it was nothing. This whole interaction got Reina rethinking her entire opinion of Zeke Draker. Meanwhile, our boy's having his own main character moment. His growth has been absolutely cracked. He trained all night and isn't even slightly tired. With infinite stamina, man's literally built different now. Way beyond anything he could have dreamed of in his past life. Back then, this academy was straight up hell for him. But now, he's actually vibing with it, enjoying some rare peace and quiet. Of course, that peace gets shattered real quick. Owen Zimmons, the third son of the Zimmons family, suddenly rolls up on him. And let me tell you about this snake. In Zeke's previous life, Owen was a master manipulator. The kind of scumbag who blackmailed and bullied him non-stop. Just like before, he'd send Zeke a dinner invitation. And just like before, Zeke left him on red. The weird part? This time, Owen's acting way too friendly. Like suspiciously friendly. Zeke immediately knows what invitation he's talking about. And hits him with a sharp comeback. Owen's all, why didn't you reply to my message? And Zeke coolly shoots back that he doesn't give a damn about pointless messages. This blunt response catches the attention of Owen's little sidekick, who thinks Zeke's being unnecessarily rude. But Zeke's not here to play nice. He hits the guy with the classic, who the hell are you? And doesn't even bother remembering his name. As far as Zeke's concerned, this dude's just another bootlicker trying to score points with Owen. Apparently, that was enough to make homeboy snap. Without warning, he launches an attack at Zeke. But our boy's ready. He blocks the strike instantly, even though it's got aura manipulation behind it. This clown wars out his name, Durbin Roswell, declaring himself the mightiest of them all. Zeke can't help but laugh at how absurd this is. This guy isn't even a knight, barely even a cadet, and he's out here acting tough, not wasting another second. Zeke blitzes forward with insane speed and delivers a hook to Durbin's gut. That would make Mike Tyson proud. The impact sends this fool face planting into the ground. Without missing a beat, Zeke casually invites the next Simon's lackey to step up and get humbled. Owen just walks forward, acting all unimpressed, saying he's not wowed by Zeke flexing his strength. The group eventually leaves, but to Zeke, they're nothing more than a traveling circus act. Now let me break down how Draker Academy actually works. The school's split into two classes. First, you've got the normal class. This is for cadets who lack natural talent but are willing to grind through sheer effort and discipline. It's tough but straightforward. Then there's the special class where the more capable students get to pick their own specialized subjects beyond the basics. This is where all the academy's elites gather, the supposed cream of the crop. Zeke had high expectations for who'd end up here, but as he scans the room, massive disappointment. None of them are particularly impressive. In fact, most of them are just alumni from the Cradle people he already knows. He can't help but joke to himself that this isn't a special class. It's just Cradle Class 2.0. Class finally starts and the instructors got a big announcement. Today they have a special guest, a man who once held the title of Commander-in-Chief of the Empire, a war strategist who 2 decades ago supposedly blocked an imperial invasion through pure tactical brilliance. The man who runs this entire academy is Dean Howard Draker. The room welcomes him with mad enthusiasm. He's a war hero, a symbol of hope and a tactical mastermind whose name gets praised throughout the Empire. But Zeke knows the real real truth. Howard Draker is no hero. He's a fraud. The only reason he saved the Empire was because he leaked critical info to the enemy just to save his own ass. Pure dumb luck. Let him escape unscathed and now he's basking in undeserved glory. Zeke absolutely despises this man. Howard's the reason Zeke got expelled from the academy in his past life. After that, with nowhere to go, he wandered the streets of Troy, completely lost until slave traders grabbed him and sold him to the Southern Cartel. This man's entire existence is a reminder of the worst chapter in Zeke's life, and someday he's going to make him pay for it. Now though, Howard wraps up his speech and the teacher steps in to actually begin the lesson. The cadets get summoned to the arena for an indoor training session, and Zeke's less than thrilled. He's expected to sit through the basics of dragon slaying, something that frustrated the hell out of him in his past life. Back then, he couldn't wield aura and wasted 2 years on what should have taken 3 months max. Their instructor introduces himself as the Rose Knight Drake. The students aren't impressed since they don't recognize his name, but Zeke does. Andre wasn't born into an Awakener bloodline, yet he graduated as Valhalla Academy's valedictorian. His raw talent earned him the prestigious Drake name despite having zero family ties. In short, this guy's the definition of someone you should worry about. Zeke also remembers that while the special class instructors vary in skill, Andre is infamous for having a terrible attitude. Andre gets straight to business, telling the cadets to draw their swords. His gaze immediately locks on to Zeke's weapon. It's massive compared to everyone else's, yet Zeke's wielding it like it weighs nothing. Andre, unimpressed, calls him into the arena, assuming the oversized sword is just arrogance on display. That's exactly what Zeke wanted. He boldly claims he could defeat the instructor with it, an open provocation that visibly pisses Andre off. The tension gets so thick it actually triggers Zeke's system, activating a mental defense skill. Amused by the challenge, Andre decides to give our boy a practical lesson. He even sets conditions. If Zeke wins, he gets complete freedom in class. To make things fair, Andre promises he'll hold back and won't use aura, and if this rude bastard so much as manages to touch him with his sword, Andre will consider it Zeke's victory. Pull that off and he'll be exempted from all punishments, plus he don't have to come to the basic class too. Now look, everyone's expecting our boy to get absolutely bodied by this genius instructor Andre, right? But Zeke knows this dude's weaknesses and is actually confident he can exploit them. The problem? His creepy watchful brother is somewhere in the shadows, and Zeke doesn't want to go full main character mode just yet. So what's the plan? Simple: land one clean cut on Andre's uniform to flex on him, then take the L like a good little cadet and keep his cover intact. The fight starts, and Zeke immediately goes for the throat, but Andre casually deflects it like he's swatting a fly, showing off those fancy blue knight skills. But it did nothing, so he switches it up, starts zipping around, attacking from every angle imaginable. But no matter what he does, Andre's blocking everything with annoyingly perfect precision. The other cadets are just standing there with their mouths open, watching Zeke go at it for a full 30 minutes without stopping. But here's where it gets interesting. Andre's starting to struggle. His grip's getting tighter, his blade's shaking, and you can see the exhaustion setting in. He's genuinely confused about how Zeke's still moving around, not even breathing hard. Even though Andre's holding back his power, this fight's way harder than it should be. And that's when it hits everyone watching. Pure-blooded Draker Awakeners are just built different, like it's almost unfair how much stamina these freaks have compared to normal people. Meanwhile, Zeke's over here playing 4D chess, exploiting Andre's one fatal flaw: stamina. See, the Draker family's aura cultivation is always active, even when they're sleeping. For someone like Andre who married into the family and isn't a natural-born Draker, suppressing that aura feels wrong and actively weakens him. And our boy Zeke, he's milking this weakness for everything it's worth. Andre blocks another attack, but Zeke refuses to just lose normally. His pride screaming at him that he can't take this, so he completely changes strategies, stops trying to create openings, and instead goes for an all-or-nothing move that'll force Andre to stop holding back. Suddenly Zeke backflips, then launches forward at absolutely insane speed. It's swift steps, some advanced movement technique that cadets shouldn't even know. Andre barely has time to process what's happening before Zeke's already in his blind spot. Then, in one fluid motion, Zeke activates Critical Strike, dumping every ounce of power into this one attack. For the first time, Andre hesitates, because what the actual fuck, a cadet shouldn't be pulling off techniques like this. But in that split second before impact, survival instincts kick in, and he channels just a tiny bit of aura into his feet, dodging at lightning speed. Then, he immediately counters with Sky Slice, and oh boy, Zeke goes flying across the arena. His sword straight up cracks, and the impact's so severe that even his busted healing factor kicks in. But despite regenerating, his body just says, "Nah, I'm done," and he face plants onto the arena floor. Andre sheathes his sword, looking pissed off, and officially announces that Zeke's exempt from the class. Then he asks if anyone else wants to challenge him, and after watching Zeke get launched into orbit, yeah, nobody's that stupid. The lesson continues for everyone else, while Zeke gets carried off to the infirmary like a sack of potatoes. Lying in the infirmary bed, Zeke's thinking about the fight. Sure, his original plan to slice Andre's uniform failed spectacularly, but forcing the instructor to actually use use his aura. That's an even bigger W. He made Andre acknowledge his strength, which honestly wasn't even part of the plan. That final attack Sky Slice was literally the most basic technique in the dragon slaying arts, but when a Blue Knight amps it up with their power, absolutely devastating. Still, Zeke held his own. His unlimited stamina and broken healing factor kept him standing against someone way above his level, but he knows that's not going to cut it long term. If he wants true freedom, he needs absolute power, the kind where even people above him can't touch him. While he's having this whole internal monologue, some random drunkard stumbles into the room. And I mean stumbles, this man reeks of alcohol and seems weirdly interested in Zeke. What's even more concerning, Zeke never even sensed him coming. The last thing he expected to see in the infirmary was some drunk bastard. But things get even weirder when this dude casually starts shit-talking the Dracker family patriarch. Zeke tries to figure out who this guy is, but the man's too busy chugging more booze like it's water. Then, out of nowhere, he questions Zeke about his rapid regeneration, clearly aware of his unnatural healing ability. Immediately alarm bells are going off in Zeke's head. The Academy shouldn't know about this. His system activates mental defense on autopilot. Playing it cool, Zeke acts confused and pretends he has no idea what this weirdo's talking about. But the stranger isn't buying it. Without any warning, he lunges at Zeke with a palm strike, sharp enough to slice clean through the bed. Zeke quickly dodges, now thinking this guy might actually be an assassin sent to kill him. Thinking fast, he whips the bedsheet at this lunatic to blind him, hoping to get some breathing room. But the sense of danger only gets worse, so Zeke says screw it and goes all in. He activates every skill he's got and launches an all-out attack. Yet despite being blinded by the sheet, this man effortlessly catches Zeke's blade mid-swing like it's nothing. But instead of finishing him off, he just smirks and praises Zeke's quick thinking and adaptability. Zeke stumbles back confused and suspicious about what the man just said. Mercenary? What the hell does he mean by that? Who is this drunk bastard? So now our boy's getting paranoid as hell, thinking, wait, does this drunk bastard know I'm a reincarnator? Meanwhile, the stranger's just staring at him, watching this so-called Draker Knight literally eat his sword away to save his own skin. The guy scoffs like, yeah, you'd make a way better mercenary than a knight, dumbass. And that's when Zeke realizes this dude sees right through him. And to make things worse, Zeke knows that there is no way he's winning against him. The power gap between them is just so massive. If this man wanted him dead, Zeke wouldn't even get to beg for his life. It'd be instant game over. This dude's at least on par with the Red Knight, maybe even stronger. Then the stranger glances at Zeke's massive claymore and just casually roasts him, saying he probably grabbed that heavy-ass thing from the Academy's discount weapon pile. With Zeke's actual talent level, wielding such a basic sword is straight up wasteful. The way this guy talks, so dismissive yet so spot on, makes Zeke realize something terrifying. This man is way stronger than he initially thought. Before Zeke can spiral further into his existential crisis, Andre walks in asking our boy why this bastard is here. Zeke's like, bro, do you know who this is? Andre nods, saying, that drunk bastard is the garden keeper. Dexter, Zeke's brain is literally blue screening right now. He's wondering how the hell the Academy even employs this guy. Meanwhile, Dexter just smirks and asks Andre how he even tracked him down. Andre shrugs, saying he spotted him lurking in the training room earlier. Then he turns to Zeke with zero chill and says, if you're healed up, get the fuck out. And Zeke had no intention of staying there, so he does as he was told and awkwardly starts backing away. But Dexter suddenly stops him, making Zeke an offer if he actually wants to learn something worthwhile. He should swing by the Academy's western greenhouse. There's this awkward silence, and then Zeke, being the arrogant bastard he is, just straight up says no and walks away. After leaving the room, Zeke starts connecting the dots, because nothing about this situation makes sense. If this gardener can talk so casually about Arthur, the Draker family patriarch, then there's only one possible explanation. Dexter isn't just some mysterious side character. He's the legendary Duke Draker, the Gale Knight. The realization smacks Zeke in the face like a brick. This is the same absolute madman who once took on an entire kingdom solo, one of the rare knights who can wield martial force. A warrior so chaotic that he allegedly became a Black Knight just because he thought it looked cool. And despite his insane reputation, the guy just vanished and decided to cosplay as a gardener at some random academy. Zeke glances back at Andre, thinking maybe he ended up here because of Dexter too. But honestly, none of that matters to Zeke right now. He's not interested in some basic training montage with starter techniques. If he's going to learn from Dexter, it won't be for small fry moves. It has to be the man's ultimate technique. Cut to the Magic Academy, where Professor Fanon is awkwardly trying to lecture a room full of corpses. I mean students. Any questions? He asks, fully expecting that no one was paying attention. And yeah, the entire class is either passed out or mentally checked out. It's depressing as hell, but he soldiers on. Then, like a miracle from the heavens, a single hand goes up. It's Zeke asking about the mana energy transfer law Fanon just mentioned. Fanon's whole demeanor does a complete 180. The man's eyes light up. It's been ages since a student actually gave a damn about his class. He eagerly breaks down the concept in detail, making sure Zeke fully understands, probably holding back tears of joy the whole time. After class, the other students are bitching about how theoretical and boring the subject is, treating it like mandatory nap time. But Zeke Zeke, he found it ridiculously easy to grasp and now realizes something: this guy Fanon is actually competent as hell. As Zeke's about to leave, Fanon stops him. With genuine emotion, he thanks Zeke for actually being curious and engaged. It's been forever since he's taught a passionate student. He even offers to be available anytime Zeke has questions. Then he drops this bombshell: he's still an alumnus at Deloa Magic University, literally the birthplace of modern magic, that catches Zeke's attention. He hadn't expected this awkward professor to have such a stacked resume. Deciding there's no downside to having a skilled mage in his corner, Zeke accepts. In his mind, mages who are good at math tend to be smart as hell. Better to have a clever magic user as an ally than another stuck-up knight. He figures Fanon might come in handy later. The second Zeke steps outside, his thoughts get interrupted. Dexter's waiting there, and, judging by his expression, his patience has completely evaporated. Finally done, Dexter asks, arms crossed, looking annoyed as hell. Before Zeke can even respond, Dexter cuts him off. Why the hell didn't you show up at the greenhouse? Clearly he was expecting Zeke to take the hint when he offered to teach him earlier, but Zeke just shrugs and bluntly repeats himself. He's not interested. Dexter's irritation skyrockets. He starts acting like a whiny child throwing a tantrum, but Zeke stands firm. He acknowledges that Dexter isn't just some random NPC, but he's too focused on his own training grind right now to deal with this. Dexter seems to accept this until he doesn't. Without warning, the man just vanishes from Zeke's sight. Before our boy can even process what just happened, he feels a sharp impact. Everything goes black. When Zeke finally wakes up, he's somewhere completely different. Blinking, he looks around the western greenhouse, and Dexter's just standing there looking relieved. Finally awake, Zeke crosses his arms deadpan. You realize this is literally kidnapping, right? Dexter, completely unfazed, just shrugs. Yeah, I know. And he smirks, making it crystal clear he's openly interested in Zeke and isn't even trying to hide it anymore. Zero patience whatsoever. Zeke thinks, but he's not sticking around for this bullshit. Without hesitation, he activates swift steps and bolts for the exit, or at least tries to, in literally the blink of an eye. Dexter's in front of him, blocking his escape route. Annoyed but not giving up, Zeke makes another run for it, only to fail again. Dexter effortlessly keeps up, shutting down every escape attempt like he's playing with a toddler. Not wanting to be treated like some helpless kid, Zeke switches tactics. With a smirk, he teases, what is it about me that's got you so obsessed? Ha! Dexter doesn't even hesitate. That crazy healing ability of yours. Zeke grins. So that's what this is about. He decides to push it further. Well then, if you want answers, you'll have to beat them out of me. Dexter vanishes. Zeke tenses, eyes darting everywhere. Where did he? A sword comes whistling through the air, aimed straight at his back. He barely catches it in time. Gripping the weapon, he narrows his eyes. What the hell are you trying to prove? Dexter told him that he's doing what Zeke told him. He wants answers, and if he wants, he can easily beat it out of him. But that would be boring. He lays out the terms. If Zeke can land even one strike on his clothes, he wins. But if he doesn't, he'll have to tell him everything. The scene shifts, and at this point, our boy has been throwing hands with Dexter for hours now. And let me tell you, it's not going well. Every punch, every strike, every move this man dodges it all. Like he's got cheat codes enabled. Zeke's got infinite stamina and regeneration, so he just keeps coming back like a Dark Souls boss, but my guy still can't land a single hit. Dexter's starting to notice something's off though. This isn't just some kid with good cardio. Bro's injuries are healing in real time and he refuses to stay down. But Zeke knows what's up. Stamina alone isn't winning this fight. He needs to pull out the big guns, and that's when he remembers Might of the Dragon. This insanely apt skill he's been too scared to use because it's risky as hell. But looking at Dexter, yeah, no more playing it safe. Our boy activates it and immediately his whole vibe changes. Purple energy starts crackling around him. Swift steps kicks in, and suddenly he's moving way faster and sharper than before. Dexter notices the upgrade and goes, not bad, but I fought faster, trying to stay cool. But then he sees Zeke's eyes and it's not just determination anymore. There's something absolutely feral in there. Dexter's low-key impressed and decides to humor him by activating a bit of his own aura. Big mistake. The second he does, Zeke unleashes the full might of the dragon and actually catches him off guard. Dexter manages to break Zeke's sword and push him back, but he's genuinely confused because what the hell just happened? Using the dust cloud as cover, Dexter figures Zeke must have used some vision trick and assumes he's hidden now. Wrong. Zeke's got dragon eyes active, locks onto him through the smoke and strikes from behind, finally lands a hit, but then Dexter just vanishes, like completely disappears. Zeke's standing there like, wait, what? And then it clicks. This must be the Duke's secret move, some teleportation ability that creates wind gusts. That's why they call him the Gale Knight. Before Zeke can process any of this, Dexter appears behind him, calls the fight a draw, and proceeds to absolutely demolish him anyway. The system immediately starts screaming alerts at Zeke, saying his body's hit its limit from skill spam. His consciousness is shutting down whether he likes it or not, and he passes out on the spot. Cut to hours later, Zeke wakes up in his room. Dexter probably carried him back. He's mad about losing, but also realistic. The Black Knight was always going to win this. He thinks back on his strategy. He kept repeating the same attacks to make Dexter lower his guard, then switched it up last second with the dragon's full power. Even with all that planning, he barely got one hit in, and that move Dexter pulled at the end? Definitely his trump card. Zeke's kicking himself for overusing his dragon skills, because if he'd stayed conscious longer, he could have learned more. But at least he saw that secret technique in action. The same ridiculous speed and honed physique that helped Andre climb the ranks despite having trash stamina. The real win here, though, might of the dragon was strong enough to make a Black Knight hesitate. Against weaker opponents, they're getting cooked. No contest. Then Zeke gets a system notification. Swift steps leveled up. But that's not even the crazy part. His soul developed and he unlocked new system functions he can buy with karma points. He scrolls through and sees a mini-map, inventory, and quest book all available. After checking everything out, he decides to unlock the inventory first. The system explains it's basically magic storage. Think of an item's name or shape and boom, it appears or disappears. Zeke tests it with his claymore. One thought and the sword vanishes into the inventory window. Another thought and it's back in his hand. He thought it'd be basic storage, but this is actually insane. In his past life, he struggled so hard to keep valuable artifacts safe. If only he had this back then. Apparently he can expand the storage with more karma points too. And the wildest part? This whole thing is just a low-rank administrator skill. Man's already wondering what ungodly powers unlock at high rank. Realizing karma points are valuable as hell, Zeke decides to spend them carefully. But before he can plan anything, there's a knock. Dexter walks in with a message, and when he mentions it's from the garden keeper, Zeke smiles. His efforts paid off. Reading the invitation, Dexter tells him he can come back for a rematch whenever. Zeke's hyped because Dexter called their fight a draw before beating his ass, which means there's still a chance to prove himself. Before leaving, Dexter drops one more update. He found the blacksmith Zeke mentioned, but when Zeke asks about setting up an appointment, Dexter awkwardly admits it didn't go well. The blacksmith straight up refused. Zeke's shocked to hear the man's completely given up on forging weapons. The next day Zeke decides it's time to hit up the blacksmith himself. So there he was standing at the same shop he used to visit in his past life. The second he sees that busted up old sign, nostalgia hits him like a truck. He walks in and immediately starts thinking about his legendary sword from back in the day, the Radiance of Graham. That thing was an absolute beast, forged by Galleon, the exact dude he's here to see now. In his past life, this blacksmith made it as a thank you gift for Zeke saving his ass. But Galleon wasn't just some random guy who bangs hammers all day. Naaman earned the title Blacksmith of the Soul because he could literally read your soul and craft the perfect weapon specifically for you. Zeke never questioned it back then. Galleon made exactly what he needed, a sword that could swap ether for aura, which was absolutely cracked. This man was literally called the greatest blacksmith on the entire continent. So seeing him now looking like he crawled out of a dumpster, Zeke shook. Galleon's clearly wasted out of his mind, barely even looks up before telling Zeke to piss off. This isn't a shop for kids, he mumbles. Zeke expected some attitude, sure, but this level of hostility? Something definitely went down before they met in the original timeline. Without even thinking twice, Zeke grabs a bucket of water and straight up drenches this drunk bastard. Galleon shoots up like he got electrocuted and Zeke's standing there smirking like, you awake now? Demanding to know why he's getting rejected. The second Galleon actually notices the Drecker logo on our boy's gloves and his whole energy does a complete 180. The man goes into full panic mode and starts bowing and apologizing, saying he's not worthy to forge weapons anymore. If I can't even create what I want, how the hell am I supposed to make something for others? That's why he stopped taking commissions entirely. Zeke's caught completely off guard. Even someone as legendary as Galleon had a whole mental breakdown arc? In his past life, the blacksmith probably never mentioned this shit. Too embarrassed to admit he failed at something. But Zeke doesn't have time for this therapy session. As Galleon keeps spiraling into his feelings, Zeke snaps him out of it. The blacksmith hesitates, then apologizes again for being a dick earlier. Zeke waves it off and demands to see these so-called failed weapons. After a pause, Galleon sighs and leads him to the back. Seeing him like this, Zeke realizes he's got to help this man find himself again or whatever. Stepping into the backyard, Galleon awkwardly apologizes for the mess, but Zeke brushes it off, saying it actually looks pretty cool. As he starts checking out the weapons, Galleon warns him they're still sharp, but when Zeke actually inspects them closer, something surprising hits him. These weapons aren't failures at all. They're just as high quality as the ones Galleon forged back when he was considered the absolute GOAT. He activates Dragon Eyes to look deeper and immediately spots the problem. He turns to Galleon and asks straight up, you're having issues with your brazier, aren't you? Galleon looks absolutely stunned. This kid figured it out that fast. Then, Zeke points out something else. Galleon's using this unique smelting method where he mixes different metals to create material that's both lighter and stronger. To prove his point, Zeke casually snaps one of the failed swords clean in half. Pathetic durability. The real problem isn't the technique itself, it's the impurities. Galleon isn't removing them properly, which is why the whole structure is weak as hell. The blacksmith is completely speechless. This kid just saw through his entire forging process in literal seconds and identified the exact exact flaws with zero effort. After a moment of stunned silence, Galleon suddenly speaks up. I know this might sound weird, but I've got a request. Back inside, he pulls out a blueprint and slaps it right in front of Zeke. The blueprint with a magic brazier. Zeke recognizes it instantly from his past life. This was the exact design that let Galleon perfect his craft. Back then, the blacksmith trusted him enough to share his greatest secret. History is literally repeating itself right now. Zeke examines the design and immediately gets it. If Galleon completes this brazier, his smelting process will be absolutely flawless. But something's off. If you already have the blueprint, why haven't you built it yet? Galleon sighs, I'm missing the most important component, the magic core. And the commission fee is 10,000 gold coins. Zeke's eyes go wide because that's absolutely insane. For context, even an average family only spends like 10 gold per month. This is 1,000 times that. No wonder it took Galleon a whole decade to reach the top in his past life. Galleon knows his request sounds bat's hit crazy, but he's desperate as hell since Zeke's a Draker and a pure-blooded awakener. Maybe he can help get the core. In return, the blacksmith makes a bold offer. If Zeke helps him out, he'll forge any weapon he wants, completely free for as long as he lives. Zeke thinks about it and quickly realizes the problem. It's practically impossible. He's not the family's guardian knight, so there's no way he can gather that ridiculous amount of money. But he needs Graham the Sword of Radiance, which means he's got to find a way somehow. The issue is tied to mana energy laws, and suddenly an idea hits him. A crazy one. Without hesitation, he accepts Galleon's request and takes the blueprint. The blacksmith looks doubtful as hell, but Zeke confidently tells him he knows a mage who might help. As he turns to leave, he orders the blacksmith to stop drinking his life away. Instead of arguing, Galleon suddenly drops to his knees with the best puppy dog eyes you've ever seen, telling our boy that if he truly does this, he'll serve him for life. Cut to the Draker Academy Professional Research Building. Zeke arrives, still absolutely fuming. These mage tower scumbags set the price outrageously high out of pure greed, and he knows it. Walking through the halls, he remembers Fanon's major was related to this exact field. If he can find Fanon's research lab, he might find a workaround. While searching, something in a nearby alley catches his attention. Some kids getting absolutely demolished by bullies crying and begging for mercy. The boy's completely powerless to fight back. Zeke grits his teeth. This scene, I've seen it before. His past life flashes before his eyes. This exact situation played out back then too. Clenching his fists in frustration, he changes course and heads straight for the alley. The leader, Lien, sneers down at his victim. You're worthless, he spits, venting his own frustrations on someone weaker. His anger isn't even about this kid. He's still bitter over losing his physique to Zeke. Taking it out on someone who can't fight back makes him feel in control again. As he stomps the kid's head into the ground, Lien snarls, that wasn't a real fight, that was a cheap shot. Pure luck. He refuses to believe Zeke has any right to be called a pure-blooded awakener. Seeing this scene, our boy gets pissed and tells these bastards that they better get to their knees if they value their lives. But, folks, what do you know this bastard? Lien still can't accept reality. He's out here doubting whether Zeke's awakening is even legit. But Zeke, man, he's not entertaining this clown's bullshit. His voice gets ice cold as he goes, bow down right now or you're done for. And then this absolutely terrifying pressure just washes over the whole alley. Lien straight up freezes like his body just hit pause. Cold sweats pouring down his face because he's feeling this paralyzing fear grip in. He's thinking, why the hell does Zeke feel so scary right now? Just a few months back, this dude was literally a joke, a complete nobody. But standing here now, he's a whole different person. Lien grits his teeth, his pride getting absolutely demolished. He calls Zeke some inferior piece of trash and orders his goons to jump him all at once because that's what smart people do, right? Zeke doesn't even break a sweat. Some dude throws a punch at him, but he dodges it easily while giving them one last warning. Then boom, he just starts dismantling the entire squad. The first guy drops instantly. The next one barely processes what's happening before he's eating dirt. Another moron comes flying at Zeke and our boy just catches him midair and eats him backward like a bag of trash. In literal seconds, the whole gang is laid out on the ground groaning in pain. Lien's watching this, sweating bullets and thinking, is this really the same Zeke? Our protagonist walks up to him with the cockiest grin you've ever seen and goes, relax, it's only going to hurt for a second. Lien is terrified out of his mind. He stumbles back and pulls out his sword, shouting, stay away from me, I swear I'll cut you if you come closer. With his hands shaking like crazy, Zeke's expression gets dark and he calmly reminds this idiot about the rules. Drawing a weapon inside the training area has some serious consequences. Lien's breath catches because he's so panicked he completely forgot about that. Now he's trapped in his own mess like the dumbass he is. But Zeke doesn't let him off easy. He pulls out his own sword and says that according to Academy law, their fight won't end until one of them is dead. Whoever draws first takes full responsibility for whatever happens. No one's going to blame the other to make it official. Zeke points at Lien and makes him their witness. Just as he's about to start, Lien completely loses it. This bully drops to his knees and throws all his pride out the window, begging for mercy like a little bitch. Zeke stares down at him, memories from his past life flashing through his mind. He calls Lien a trashy scumbag fag, and then boom, slashes and takes just his ear. Lien screams, clutching the bleeding wound, but Zeke's not done. He grabs this bastard by the hair and tells him, "Don't even think about reattaching it. If I see you with both ears again, I won't stop there next time." As he was leaving, Lien asks our boy, "Why? Why did you help me?" Zeke brushes it off. "I wasn't helping you, I was helping myself." As he walks away, this weird thought pops into his head. Was it Galleon? Did the blacksmith's words actually get to him? He shakes his head and pushes the thought away. Finally, he reaches his destination and finds Professor Fanon. He gave him the blueprint. Without wasting time, Zeke asks if his request is even possible. Fanon gives him a straight answer. It's doable. Relieved, Zeke's about to leave when Fanon stops him. "Hold up, you have to listen first." He explains that while the overall design isn't too complicated, the core is the real issue. The core is basically the heart of the machine. It controls the power output. But because of the circuit's weird restrictions, it needs a massive amount of energy despite being tiny. The real problem? They also got to adjust the energy output in real time, where the whole thing becomes useless. Zeke processes all this and asks, "So is there actually a way to make it?" Fanon nods. There are two options. The first one is completely redesigning the core, but it would take a decade, maybe even 15 years. Zeke's jaw drops. 15 years? Fanon sighs and repeats, "It would take forever." Then he mentions the second method, one that lets them skip redesigning the core by using a different material. This would save them years, but there's a catch. They need a high compression manstone. The second Zeke hears that, he jolts up. "You can't be serious." He knows exactly what that is, an ancient artifact so rare that even modern tech can't make it. Fanon confirms it. Yep, and finding one in a ruin is basically impossible. "If we want a stone that actually works with this design, it'll cost 3000 gold." Zeke just goes silent. 3000 gold. He barely wrapped his head around needing 10,000 for the magic brazier, and now this. He just stands there completely overwhelmed. 15 years is obviously not happening, but 3000 gold isn't exactly pocket change. And to make things worse, if anyone finds out he can't actually use aura, he'll get kicked out of the academy immediately. Everyone thinks he can wield aura because of what went down at the blessing ceremony. But the truth, it was all smoke and mirrors, a trick using his ether and healing abilities. No matter how hard he tries, he straight up can't use aura. Unlike ether, which normal humans can't control at all, aura's way more common. That's why Graham, the Sword of Radiance, is absolutely crucial. Without it, his whole future's screwed. While Zeke's lost in thought, Fanon's still geeking out over the blueprint. Whoever designed this is an absolute genius. The efficiency's insane. Even among relics from the Golden Age, this level of skill's super rare. That's when it hits him. Zeke's eyes widen as an idea forms. He stands up without hesitation. "Professor, just focus on refining the design, I'll handle the rest." And with that, he heads out to find his own solution. Fanon looks confused as hell. "Wait, are you telling me to spend 15 years reworking this?" Zeke shakes his head. "Nah, no need for that, I'm bringing you one." With total confidence, he says he knows exactly how to get his hands on a high compression mana stone. The professor's just standing there with his jaw on the floor, completely speechless. Meanwhile, Zeke's brain is already racing, thinking back to all the history behind these relics. So get this, way back in the Golden Age, magic was absolutely cracked, like peak civilization type beat. But then humanity said, "Fuck dragons, we're done being their bitches," and started this whole ass liberation war. The war finally wrapped up when Tarakan murdered Bahamut, the evil dragon overlord. After that, humanity chilled for a whole century, living their best lives, but the dragon layers they left behind were loaded with remnants from that golden era. These ancient relics, called the Hero King's remnants, were so advanced that modern humans can't even figure out how to recreate them. And among all that treasure, a high compression mana stone, a relic so powerful it could provide energy for an entire village. That's the prize our boy's hunting for. Cut to Draker Academy's central library, and Zeke's walking into this place that's basically abandoned at this point. Nobody uses it anymore, but it's still kept clean and maintained because apparently the legendary hero Tarakan Draker himself built this place decades ago. So it's got that historical significance, you know? Zeke's thinking back to his past life, remembering how during the Academy's record room expansions, they uncovered a bunch of Golden Age relics. The Magic Tower and the Archmage of Nirvana came running, and the discovery sent shockwaves across the entire continent. But that was in his past life. Right now, these relics should still be sitting here untouched, just waiting for him. He starts searching through this massive library, but obviously he's not finding anything immediately. I mean, if these relics were just sitting out in the open, someone would have snagged them ages ago. So, Zeke activates his dragon eyes and scans the room like he's got thermal vision or something. Finally, he spots at this one weird tile that just doesn't match the rest. He walks up to it and taps it, checking for hidden mechanisms like he's in some Indiana Jones movie. Then he enables Spirit of the Soul, remembering what his master taught him way back. Basically, ether can materialize and let you apply different properties like cutting or impact. Sounds op, right? But there's a catch. Ether burns through energy like crazy. Just turning it on is already draining his stamina, and he's feeling the fatigue kick in. But our boy doesn't have time to rest, so he just pushes through and steps steps into the opening behind the tile. Now he's inside this hidden cave, and after lighting a fire to see what's going on, he's frowning. He's thinking, wait, in my past life, these ruins weren't discovered until like a decade later, and I don't remember it being this deep underground. What's going on? Just then, he hears something moving, his heart's pounding, and he's panicking. Like, did someone already find this place before me? He peeks ahead and spots skeletons, but these aren't your regular dead bodies. Nah, these bastards are moving, holding shovels and pickaxes like they've been digging for something non-stop. Zeke immediately scans them with dragon eyes and confirms they're not controlled by a lich. Good news, that means he can destroy them without dealing with some necromancer. Our boy doesn't waste a second. He activates critical strike and charges forward, going full berserker mode and absolutely shattering these undead workers before they even know what hit them. As he's finishing them off, a system notification pops up saying he earned 2 karma points. Zeke grins because in all his excitement about finding the artifact, this absolute genius completely forgot he could farm karma points this whole time. But now that he remembers, oh, his expression gets wicked. This is the perfect opportunity to grind. He pushes forward without hesitation, tearing through 20 more skeletons like their tutorial enemies, racking up points left and right. Once he's satisfied with his haul, he pulls up the system menu to see what he can buy. Unfortunately, almost everything's still locked because he's broke on karma points, but there's one thing he can afford: the mini-map. He doesn't even think twice and buys it instantly. The system updates right away, showing his exact location. It looks just like a magic map, which is already pretty sick. But then, and this is where it gets crazy, the mini-map shifts into full 3D. Zeke's watching this absolutely amazed as the entire layout of the ruins appears before him like some next-gen GPS system. Then he notices something wild. One room is highlighted in a completely different color. Curious, he clicks on it, and the system labels it as a storage room and even offers to show him the optimal route to get there. Zeke's just stunned, thinking, hold up, the search party in my past life took days to find the storage room, and I just located it in 5 seconds. This system's absolutely broken. He decides to test it out and follows the system's guidance, and holy shit, navigating is so easy now. He's thinking there's literally no way he'll ever get lost with this skill equipped. Finally, he arrives at his destination. But of course there's a problem. There's this massive door blocking his way. He frowns and examines it, thinking, yeah, no way this is opening with a simple push, but might as well try. The second his hand touches the surface, a surge of magic just blasts him backward. His glove literally catches on fire, forcing him to yank his hand back immediately. Zeke's staring at his hand, thinking, damn, if I weren't wearing these gloves, my hand would be cooked right now. Now it all makes sense why the Archmage of Nirvana and the Magic Tower came running when this place got discovered in his past life. Realizing he's not going to brute force his way through this door, he turns to the system like, alright, got any ideas? The system connects to the security device and tries to override it, but after a few seconds it straight up fails. Instead, it activates the manual override. Zeke blinks, confused. Wait, did you just reply to me? And the system goes affirmative. His eyes go wide because he wasn't expecting an actual conversation here. A crazy thought pops into his head: if the system can talk to him, maybe, just maybe, he can get some real answers. So he immediately fires off the big question: why was I regressed? No response. Alright then, who's behind the administrator system? Nothing. Frustrated as hell, he tries one last time. Who created this system? But no, annoyed, he gives up. Fine, forget it, just open the damn door. The system confirms, and with this low rumbling sound, the entrance to the Dragon Slayer storage room finally unlocks. The second Zeke steps inside, his eyes go wide in pure disbelief, just like they did in his past life. There are rows and rows of chests, absolutely packed with priceless relics and treasures. Finding even one of these in some random ruins is nearly impossible. Yet here they are, just sitting here waiting to be claimed. He methodically searches through each chest until he finally spots what he came for: high compression mana stones. There are 4 of them total. Without hesitation, he spends a karma point to expand his inventory and secures one. Unfortunately, his storage is still way too limited to grab everything, so he makes a mental note to come back later when he can claim it all. Just as he's about to bounce, this eerie sensation washes over him. Instinctively, he glances back, and in an instant, glowing magic circles appear all around him. Before he can even react, the spell activates and he gets teleported away. The sudden shift makes him stumble, and as he catches his footing, he quickly scans his surroundings. This place is completely unfamiliar. He turns to the system demanding answers like, yo, where the hell am I? And the response? He's now inside the home of the Dragon Slayer. Zeke racks his brain, but in his past life, he had never heard of this place existing. The dimly lit room is lined with coffins, which is creepy as hell. He opens his mini-map and realizes he's not that far from where he just was, but there's no visible path connecting the 2 locations. That can only mean one thing: this is an undiscovered hidden area. Seeing this rare opportunity, he rushes to one of the coffins and pries open its heavy concrete lid. Inside is a full set of medieval armor just resting there in silence. The system quickly identifies it as Dragon Slayer exclusive equipment. He lifts the armor up and notices all these scratches and dents, remnants of battles from way back. Something about it feels different from the Golden Age armor he's used to seeing. Then his eyes catch this unusual circular hole on the back and it clicks instantly. Wait, this must connect to those mana stones I just grabbed, wasting zero time. Zeke opens his storage and pulls out one of the high compression mana stones. He's not about to let an opportunity like this slip by as he slots the ancient relic into place. The system immediately confirms the successful installation of the mana battery. A pulse of energy surges through the armor and its surface begins to glow as it comes to life. Watching this activation unfold, a grin spreads across Zeke's face, thinking this discovery could change everything. A second later, the armor started glitching uncontrollably, twitching and convulsing like a malfunctioning robot. Zeke's excitement instantly turned to alarm, and before he could do anything, the entire set just exploded, filling the room with thick smoke. The system finally chimes in like, oh yeah, an overload caused critical equipment failure. It even mentions it tried to warn him about the explosion, but clearly that message arrived a little too late. The system awkwardly apologizes for the delay, but at least the blast didn't cause any serious damage to Zeke. On the bright side though, he confirmed one crucial fact. The high compression mana stones are the power source for these ancient armors, but that just raises more questions. What kind of insane abilities does this armor have that it needs that much energy? He makes a mental note to ask Professor Fanon about it once he gets out. For now, our boy is done checking out the creepy coffin room and decides to explore the rest of this dungeon. He's going from room to room and surprise, surprise, they're all completely empty. Finally, he reaches the last room, and at first it looks just as boring as the others. But then he spots something sitting in the middle, a glass cube. The second he looks at it, a system notification pops up and Zeke just freezes. You can literally see the oh shit moment hit him as sweat starts dripping down his face. He's thinking, what kind of psychopath was my ancestor? Because guess what's chilling inside that cube? The heart of Bahamut, the cursed light dragon. Yeah, the OG Draker literally killed this legendary dragon, ripped out its heart and went, you know what? I'll just leave this here for the kids. Like, bro, most people leave behind money or a sword, not a cursed dragon heart. No wonder Zeke felt that creepy energy back in the storage room. But compared to what he felt before, this is on a whole different level. Then the system hits him with the heart of the cursed light dragon is reacting to your presence, and right on cue, dark energy explodes out of nowhere, wrapping around him like some kind of invisible prison. A voice starts whispering in his head, you have no choice. Then it gets louder and angrier, straight up screaming at him, kill them all. Zeke's vision starts getting blurry. His thoughts are getting all twisted and violent, and he's literally losing his mind. Luckily, his indomitable mental defense kicks in and snaps him out of it. He gasps for air, his head's pounding like crazy, but something's still wrong. He can feel it, his body feels different, like something's off. Then he notices it. One of his eyes has turned completely black. The dude's just standing there like, well, this can't be good. Before he can even process what just happened, boom, another system notification. This time it's an urgent quest called Turrican Draker's Test. Basically, he's got to defeat the curse inside Bahamut's heart, and before he can even think about how to do that, the darkness comes back harder than before. His mental defense tries to fight it off, but for the first time ever, it straight up fails. This massive wave of murderous rage just crashes over him, and that voice is back, roaring in his skull. Kill them all. It's drilling into his brain, demanding he give in. His vision goes dark, his body locks up, and now both his eyes are pitch black. The voice is promising him freedom, real freedom, if he just submits to it. But Zeke's not buying that BS. With every bit of willpower he's got left, he fights back and makes a split-second decision. He slams his head against the glass cube as hard as he possibly can. The pain jolts through his skull. And yeah, it hurts like hell, but it clears his mind just enough. Blood's running down his face, but he's actually grinning like a psycho and says, you call this freedom? What a joke, because real freedom isn't something handed to you on a silver platter. You have to earn it. The glass cube shatters into a million pieces, breaking the curse with it. The system confirms urgent quest complete. Zeke just officially claimed his ancestor's dying gift. But man, that fight took everything out of him. He's mentally exhausted, like a mountain just collapsed on his brain. If he'd hesitated for even a second, he'd be toast right now. His body realizes how screwed up he is and activates his healing factor and infinite stamina to patch him up. Then something wild happens. Bahamut's heart, now freed from the curse, starts floating up in the air with this crazy glowing light. It slowly drifts toward Zeke's chest, and the moment it touches him, this massive wave of power surges through his entire body. And by power, I mean pure agonizing pain. This insane amount of pure mana way beyond anything he's ever felt floods into every cell in his body. But here's the problem. Zeke doesn't have any mana circles to store this energy, so all this raging power is literally ripping him apart from the inside out. He needs to do something fast. In a total panic move, he summons purple ether using Spirit of the Soul and creates a miniature black hole in his palm to seal the mana. It's completely reckless and probably stupid, but with his limited options, it's either this or explode. He's grinding his teeth, focusing everything he's got on maintaining this ether hole. The raw energy is fighting back hard, crashing against his control. The pressure keeps building and building until it finally just detonates. A huge explosion erupts with Zeke right in the center. The blast completely destroys the entire room, leaving leaving behind this massive crater. Smoke and debris are everywhere, and after all that chaos, there's just silence. When the dust clears, Zeke's somehow still standing barely. His whole body feels like it's on fire. Every nerve is screaming at him. He lets out a sharp breath, relieved that the pain's finally starting to fade. He survived. His uniform is absolutely wrecked, but there's something new on his chest. A mark. The mark of Bahamut. The glass cube has completely vanished like it was never there. That raw mana was absolutely no joke. Honestly, it's a straight-up miracle. Zeke's even alive, but his quick thinking saved his ass. As he looks down at the broken pieces on the ground, he catches his reflection and sees the mark now branded on his chest. It looks like sealing all that rampaging energy came with some side effects. Then the system drops another notification. Absorption of the cursed light dragon's heart complete, and it's followed by a flood of information. The crazy amount of mana he absorbed has completely transformed his body. His body isn't normal anymore. It's been upgraded to something way beyond human. His body is now divine. But of course there's a catch, because there's always a catch. The system detected that his current skills aren't strong enough to handle this new power. So to keep him from exploding, it forcibly sealed away 95% of the energy. But wait, there's more. Since he's the inheritor of his ancestors' legacy, he's now got access to Turok and Draker's secure library. On top of that, a beginner quest book just unlocked, and there's a low-level administrator tutorial waiting for him. Zeke's just scratching his head. Like, a divine body, a library, a tutorial. What the hell am I supposed to do with all this? It's way too much info to process right now, so he dismisses most of the notifications except for one. Turns out the first Dragon Slayer was feeling pretty generous on his deathbed. A new system prompt pops up in front of Zeke. Would you like to open Turok and Draker's second dying gift? The scene shifts, and we are back home now. Our boy's locking up all the loot he grabbed, but he can't stop staring at the system notifications. His title just changed. Now he's the one who received the blessing of the ancient dragon, an inheritor of Turok and Draker. Pretty badass, not gonna lie. And with these fancy new titles, he's got some insane perks. Draconic control, that divine body constitution we talked about earlier. But out of everything he unlocked, one ability's got him sweating. Incantation. The description's vague as hell. It just says, this skill will fill your words with power. Zeke's sitting there like, okay, that sounds broken as hell, but what does it actually do? Zeke has no clue, because even with all these crazy rewards, our boy's still too weak to use most of them. Like, draconic control means he can command dragons. Any dragon under his rule would follow orders without question. That's sick, right? And the divine body? It boosts his combat to a whole new level. His learning speed for fighting just skyrocketed, and his ether circulation is way smoother now. But there's a difference between reading about power on a stat screen and actually having it. If he wants to know what he's really capable of, he needs to test this shit out in real combat. Just as he's thinking about his next move, another system window pops up. This one's still tied to Turok and Draker's legacy. He's got access to some secure library now, but the system needs an information update before he can use it. The system's being all helpful, offering to mark the update location on his mini-map. Zeke's not exactly thrilled about running another errand, but it's his ancestors' legacy he can't just ignore. Then something catches his eye. The map layout looks familiar. He's seen this place before. Wait a second. That looks exactly like Valhalla. Folks, Valhalla is the most prestigious knight training institution in existence. It's reserved for only the most elite warriors. Regular people can't even see the grounds without administrator clearance, let alone step inside. And right now, even Zeke would have a hard time getting in. The problem? He wasn't even planning on joining Valhalla in this lifetime. But now, with something tied to Turok and Draker's dying gift hidden inside, his plans might need to change. Shaking off those thoughts, Zeke shifts his attention to the beginner quest book. The tutorial for low-level administrators is about to start. Once he completes it, he'll unlock a quest designed to boost his growth. Quests mean rewards, and the whole setup reminds him of adventurer guild missions or mercenary work. He's curious, so he asks what the tutorial involves. And bro doesn't even get a chance to prepare himself. The tutorial just starts automatically. His surroundings twist, and reality itself starts glitching out right before his eyes. Within seconds, the world around him has completely changed. Beneath his feet, glowing grid lines stretch out endlessly, and everything else is just this void of infinite darkness. Despite the trippy-ass shift, Zeke stays calm. He's scanning his surroundings, trying to figure out where the hell he is. Unlike the teleportation from earlier, this doesn't feel like he just moved locations. It's like the very rules of reality just got rewritten before he can process it any further, and orcs lunges at him with their massive spiked club. Right then, the system finally chimes in with tutorial quest to defeat the monsters within 60 minutes using 2 or more different skills. Completion rewards, system points, plus system store unlock. Not bad at all. His battle instincts kick in. A sword materializes in his grip just as the first wave of attacks closes in. So this tutorial is designed to make him use the system's benefits? It would have been nice to have access to something like this before all the near-death experiences, but whatever. The first 3 orcs attack at the same time, their weapons coming down from different angles, but they hit nothing. Zeke's already gone. The sheer force of their missed attacks makes the tutorial space ripple. Before these green bastards can even react, he reappears, moving at insane speed. With swift steps and continuous slashes, he cuts them down with precise, effortless movements before they can even register what happened. Monsters like these? They're nothing more than practice dummies to him now. The claymore in his hands feels incredibly light, almost weightless. This surge in strength has to be one of the perks of his divine body constitution. With this new power, he's confident he could take down a purple knight with ease. After effortlessly wiping out the tutorial orcs, he returns to his original spot as the separate dimension fades away. Was it just an illusion? It felt way too real to be some fake-ass trick. Either way, completing the tutorial earned him a hefty reward, both a critical hit bonus and a time bonus. In total, he racks up a solid 40 points and unlocks access to the shop. Excited Zeke wastes no time opening the shop tab. What he finds leaves him absolutely stunned. The selection is incredible. Items like Giant's Flesh, Breath of a Flame Giant, and other rare relics that would cost a fortune on the market. A thought crosses his mind. Could he profit by reselling these items? Like he could become rich as hell, just flipping system items. Beyond buying, the shop also lets him sell items from his inventory. Unfortunately, his training claymore isn't eligible. But his elven dagger? Listed for just 4 points. He's pissed because he knows it could fetch at least 100 gold pieces at an auction. Yet, the system's lowballing him hard, deciding it's not worth selling unless he's desperate. He closes the shop and calls it a day. After everything that happened, a full night's rest is well overdue. Cut to the next morning, Zeke makes his way to Draker Academy's research center to meet Professor Fannin, the magic professor's in complete disbelief. Zeke actually managed to get his hands on a high-compression mana stone in just one day. When asked where he found it, Zeke brushes off the question. The explanation's too complicated, and he's got no intention of spilling the beans. Before Zeke even finishes his tea, Professor Fannin's already done tweaking the power source. The man's a true genius when it comes to magic. Still, despite his calm exterior, Zeke can tell the professor's suspicious. High-compression mana stones are rare and meticulously documented in ancient texts. Each one has a registration number to track its ownership and origin. A single check could reveal where it came from and who it currently belongs to. Yet the mana stones in Zeke's possession are completely unregistered. No matter how thoroughly someone searches, they won't pop up in the central continent's registration records. Professor Fannin's skepticism is totally justified. It's better than blind faith. His expertise and sharp judgment make him truly exceptional. Zeke can't help but think that a man with this much talent deserves way more recognition than he's getting at this academy. With the design finally complete, the professor activates the apparatus and they head back to Papnir's breath. They hand the device over to Gellion. Zeke and Fannin watches as the blacksmith gets to work, his workshop glowing with the light of carefully arranged magic circles. The pure excitement on Gellion's face is contagious. He's finally been given the chance to craft weapons that meet his own high standards. This is history in the making right here. After a successful demonstration, Professor Fannin excuses himself to attend a lecture, leaving Zeke with Gellion. The blacksmith is overwhelmed with gratitude. He'd been dreaming of completing a magic brazier for years but never thought he'd see it happen in his lifetime. Making a deal with Zeke was the best decision he ever made. Now that Zeke's upheld his end of the bargain, it's time for Gellion to do the same. Without hesitation, Zeke reaches into his bag and pulls out an item. The moment Gellion lays eyes on it, he knows exactly what it is. Inside the lavish case rests a pristine dragon's fang. Among all the rewards from inheriting Tarakan's will, Bahamut's sharpest fang is hands down the most valuable. The sight of it alone makes the blacksmith tremble with excitement. Tears and snot are running down Gellion's face as he clutches the massive fang, leaving Zeke momentarily bewildered. First, he helped bring the magic brazier to life, and now he's giving a humble craftsman the chance to forge a weapon from a dragon's fang. This is like every blacksmith's wet dream, overcome with emotion. Gellion swears to create a blade that'll surpass Zeke's every expectation, even if it costs him his life. His words strike a chord. They're the same ones he said in Zeke's previous life. Even in this second chance, Gellion remains the same passionate fool. That realization stirs something deep within Zeke, leaving Papnir's breath behind. He lets the master handle the crafting, with the greatest blacksmith on the continent working on his weapon. He's got no doubt it's going to be something legendary. So, now that the sword business is done, Zeke's back at his mansion. Man went through absolute hell just to get a proper weapon, and now he can finally chill. It's been a week since his duel with Duke, and he's just chilling at his mansion, lounging around reading that note he got. You know, the one inviting him for a rematch when things go sideways fast. Out of nowhere, our boy sends something. He turned around and there he was, Duke Draker, standing behind him, looking like he's about to commit murder. This dude's eyes are literally on fire with rage as he gets in Zeke's face, asking him why the hell he's been ignoring his invitation. And folks, what does our boy do? Being the little shit he is, Zeke decides to poke the bear. He casually tells Duke he's got zero plans of fighting him again. That's all it took. Duke snaps, crosses the room in like half a second, grabs Zeke, and before our boy can even blink, this angry old knight launches him straight out the open window window like a football. Zeke's suddenly free falling through the air with absolutely no warning. And get this, his room's up on one of the higher floors too. If he hits the ground before his body does its whole healing thing, he's cooked. He reaches out desperately trying to grab anything on the way down the balcony, a ledge, whatever. But nope, a strong hand catches him right by the throat before he can get a grip on anything. Duke's not done with him yet. This man seriously can't wrap his head around why Zeke keeps dodging him. First, he ducked out in the treatment room, and now this. It's almost like the kid's doing it on purpose just to mess with him. Duke gives him 5 seconds to cut the crap and start talking. But instead of freaking out like any sane person would while dangling off a building, Zeke just smiles. He casually calls Duke out, pointing out that he's the one being fake here, still playing pretend as a gardener while demanding Zeke be straight with him. Something changes in Duke's face. He was expecting fear, maybe some tears, anything but. There's nothing. The countdown hits 0, and the old knight's grip loosens up. Without saying a word, Duke tosses Zeke back through the window like he weighs nothing. Zeke crashes onto the floor and absolutely wrecks half the room on impact. But thanks to his body being built like a tank, nothing's actually broken. He dusts himself off and looks up to see Duke, or should I say garden keeper, Dexter, offering him a hand with this smug little smirk. The old knight finally drops the act. He's not just some weird gardener who talks to plants. This man was a black knight of the Regressor family. Zeke gasps and acts all shocked, even though he'd figured this out a long time ago. But hey, the kid knows how to put on a show. He throws himself into it, dropping to his knees and going on about how sorry he is for not recognizing such an important member of the Regressor family. Duke narrows his eyes, though he's not buying it for a second. Was this your plan the whole time? He asks. Zeke, shameless as ever, keeps playing dumb and milks the whole thing. But he's also sneaky, so while he's at it, he casually asks why Duke called himself a former Black Knight. The old man's face goes dark real quick. I just don't have that title anymore, he says. Zeke didn't even know knights could lose their ranks like that. He can tell Duke's not about to say anything more about it, so he drops it. But he does catch the slight shake in the old man's hand. Yeah, there's definitely more to this story. So since Duke actually came clean about who he really is, Zeke figures it's only fair to do the same. He drops to his knees and straight up admits everything. Yeah, he knew the whole time he'd been messing with Duke on purpose, hoping the guy would eventually take him on as a student. And instead of blowing up about it, Duke actually laughs. The old knight finds Zeke's guts hilarious, and just like that, he makes his call. Alright, he says, you're my apprentice now. Zeke's jaw drops. That's seriously it? Like he was fully expecting Duke to put him through some brutal tests, or maybe even try to kill him before agreeing to anything. But nah, this kid just got himself a legendary teacher by being persistent and annoying. He wastes no time. He bows way down and goes into full serious mode. I, Zeke Regressor, swear to bring honor to my master's name, to follow his teachings, and to chase both wisdom and strength under his guidance. Duke raises an eyebrow. Wait, you actually know that vow? Yeah, most kids these days have zero clue that kind of stuff even exists. But Zeke's always believed that knowing your roots and having discipline is what separates real knights from everyone else. So of course he knows it by heart. Still, he's got one more thing on his mind. Master, can I ask you something? Duke immediately shuts that down. Yeah, no, don't call me that. Zeke smirks but keeps going anyway. Why'd you actually pick me? Because let's be real, Duke's famous for saying no to literally everyone. Even Andre, the so-called once-in-a-generation genius, had to beg for years before Duke finally caved. Zeke's got his own guesses, but he wants to hear it from the man himself. Duke just chuckles. Take a guess. Zeke grins, because I'm the smartest kid in the family. Duke lets out this big laugh. Confident? Huh? Nah, if I wanted raw talent, I would have picked that girl from the Turuan family. Then his face gets real serious. I picked you for one reason, kid. You don't quit. And that's the thing. Talent alone won't get you to the top. Duke makes that crystal clear. The kids who are naturally gifted, they're actually the ones who fall apart the hardest when things get tough. Their talent just disappears the second life gets real. Zeke knows this better than anyone. He's watched it happen over and over again his whole life. Kids, everyone swore they were going to be the next big thing. Kids who were supposed to become Red Knights couldn't even push past Blue Knight. The moment things actually got hard, they just stopped growing. Duke ends it there and gets up. Enough talking. Let's go. Zeke follows him out to the empty western greenhouse, and then Duke reveals something wild. There's a whole hidden gym underneath it. Zeke had no idea this place even existed. Duke doesn't bother explaining any of it. Run, he says, so Zeke runs for 3 hours straight. He's just going in circles around the track while Duke stands there watching him like a hawk. Zeke can't stop wondering what the hell Duke's trying to figure out. Then the Duke told him to stop. Zeke pulls the brakes immediately, but before he can even catch his breath, Duke's already right behind him. This old man moves like a ghost. His hand shoots toward Zeke's wrist out of nowhere. Zeke's body reacts before his brain does. He yanks his arm away and dodges the grab just in time. Every part of him is screaming to put as much distance between them as possible. Duke narrows his eyes and looks down at his own hand for a second. Even though he didn't actually grab Zeke, that tiny bit of contact almost ripped right through the kid's special glove. And that tells him everything he needed to know. You got a problem with me checking your pulse? Duke asks, and his voice is sharp as hell. But Zeke knows there's no way that was what Duke was actually going for. This sly sly old fox has been suspicious since day one, from their fight in the infirmary to the greenhouse brawl. And now this. The man watched him run 500 laps and not once picked up a single bit of aura coming off Zeke's body. And as the second Duke reached for his wrist, Zeke flinched away like it was instinct. Then the Duke casually asks our boy, "You can't use aura, can you?" Seeing our boy panicking, the Duke just casually drops that he knows about the bronze statue incident and the golden light Zeke triggered, and our boy's internally freaking the hell out. Duke's like, "Yo, if I'm wrong, let me check your pulse." And there's no beef in his eyes, just straight up curiosity. But Zeke is losing his mind on the inside, because aura was everything in the drunker world. Like if word got out that someone from their bloodline couldn't use it, that's not just embarrassing, that's a career ending, family shaming, straight up your life is over kind of mess. But the funny thing is Duke didn't even give a damn about any of that political BS. The man just wanted to know what was really going on. Zeke was honestly lucky his master was such a weird old bastard, because if this were literally anyone else, things would have gone south real fast. So Zeke knew he had to play this smart. His one goal right now, get his hands on Graham. Until then he needed to keep his head down and not let anyone catch on to his aura situation. But unlike his past life, where he was basically the embarrassment of his household, things were different now. No lies needed this time. Zeke pulled off his special gloves, showing off the symbol of a pure blood awakener underneath. Rock solid proof of his noble bloodline right there on his skin. But even though he actually woke up his powers successfully, the dude simply could not use aura. So he decided to spill just enough of the truth to keep his real secrets hidden. He looked down, let out this shaky breath, and hit Duke with the whole trembling voice act. "If the family finds out I can't use aura, they'll kick me out," he whispered, and oh man, he even squeezed out some tears. Someone give this kid an Oscar, because the performance was absolutely perfect. Duke, being the soft-hearted old man he secretly is, completely melted seeing his student like that. A kid is still a kid after all. Zeke stuck out his wrist without another word, and Duke spread his aura through the boy's body to scan for any trace of it. And the result? Absolutely nothing. Not a single drop. Duke's brain immediately went into overdrive trying to make sense of this, because his mind literally refused to believe something that went against everything Druckers knew. And right on cue he landed on his own answer. "You're an irregular." Zeke played dumb, tilting his head like he'd never heard the term. Duke explained, "Irregulars are people with abilities that just don't follow the normal rules. Some can use both aura and mana. Others can see the future, whatever. The point is they're basically outcasts because their existence freaks everyone out." Duke crossed his arms and said they'd keep this between them. Master and student, nobody else's business. Simple as that. Then Duke connected the dots on his own. Zeke's insane stamina, his recovery speed that made even small injuries heal almost instantly. Duke figured it out. "Your aura is constantly draining to keep your body healing," he said. "That's why there's barely any left." Honestly, for a weird old man, that was a pretty solid guess. Zeke kept up his act, looking worried and asking if that meant he'd never use aura. Duke just laughed and shook his head. "Forget aura. My Gale arts don't need it." And then Duke showed him. Before Zeke could even process what was happening, the ground beneath Duke just exploded. The old knight launched himself across the entire gym in a single jump, moving so fast you literally couldn't see him. Zeke zagging across the arena like a blur, before landing back where he started like he'd just taken a casual stroll. Duke turned around and asked, "Did you catch that?" Zeke let out a breath and immediately asked if he could try it himself. Duke blinked. Most people would need to watch it again, but this kid was already itching to go. The old knight laughed and told him to go for it. Zeke replayed every single movement in his mind, then stepped forward. His first step cracked the ground right on top of Duke's footprint, and just like that, he was gone, perfectly copying his master's entire pattern without a single mistake. When he finally stopped, Duke was completely speechless. A week ago this kid was nowhere near this level. The improvement was insane, honestly beyond anything Duke had ever seen. Of course, Zeke had to ruin the moment by being cocky about it. Duke pulled him into a headlock, messing with him about going from crying like a baby to nailing a move that most knights can't even figure out. Fast forward a bit and Zeke set the academy dining hall absolutely demolishing everything in sight. Meat, seafood, bread, you name it. That's when instructor Andre walks up and asks how the hell Zeke managed to get chosen by Sir Dexter. Zeke, still shoveling food into his face, just shrugged and said Sir Dexter picked him on his own. Andre was not happy about that answer. The guy's whole face went dark because obviously his assumption was that Zeke only got picked for being a pure blood awakener. Zeke wasn't having it. After finishing his meal, he turned on Andre and basically called out the man's inferiority complex to his face. Andre tried to pull rank, but Zeke shut him down completely, pointing out that if Sir Dexter were really that shallow, that would actually just prove Zeke's own worth even more. Then he told Andre to stop whining and actually put in the work to earn his spot. Later that day at the Western Greenhouse Arena, Zeke and Duke showed up to find Andre already there, running laps like his life depended on it. Turns out the guy had shown up earlier and practically begged Duke to let him train, even if it meant starting from the very bottom. Duke gave him a challenge, 300 laps, no aura, and Andre was out there grinding through it. Even Zeke had to respect it. Turns out this dude actually had some fight in him after all. Cut to the next day and some major stuff was going down at the academy. Every single student got called to the training grounds because apparently the big boss himself was coming through. The patriarch's visit was happening and you could hear the horses outside before you even saw the carriage rolling up with the Draker family symbol all over it. The academy's Dean Howard Draker was already scrambling around like crazy. He's ordering everyone to get ready for their supreme leader, making sure he's standing right at the front so he can be the first one to kiss ass. The carriage pulls up, the door opens, and Howard's already bowing so deep you think he's trying to touch his toes. Behind him, all the knights are kneeling with their swords up in the air, doing the whole salute thing. The patriarch showed up right on time. Exactly at noon, the academy's bell starts ringing and it's louder and sharper than usual because this is a big deal. Then he steps out. Arthur Draker, head honcho of the third transcendent household, the freaking dragon slayer himself. Just him being there makes everyone shut up and stand straight. He puts his hand on Howard's shoulder, towering over the poor guy, and throws him a rare compliment about working hard. This man is basically power personified. Howard's still bowing and starts suggesting they head inside because the sun's brutal, but Arthur moves at his own damn pace. Nobody rushes this man. Some students near the gates manage to get a peek at him and their jaws just drop. Then finally, he steps fully into view so everyone can see his face. Standing in front of all these young dragon slayers, Arthur addresses them directly, saying how they're the future of the clan, the hope and the strength, and all that normal BS. He tells them to train harder and push themselves for their own growth and for the glory of the Draker family. The students are eating this up, shouting back at him with everything they've got, completely fired up by his speech. As the sun's beating down on everyone, Arthur turns away and tells Howard to take him inside already. Behind closed doors, Zeke gets summoned to meet the leader of all knights, the guy protecting the dragon slayer named his own father. Arthur actually laughs at Zeke's super formal old school greeting because nobody talks like that anymore. He's smiling a bit as he pours 2 cups of tea and tells his son to sit down. He mentions he heard Zeke likes tea, so he grabs something rare, hoping he'd like it. To some random person watching, this might look like a sweet moment between father and son, but Zeke sees right through it. This is proof that every little thing about him, even what he drinks, is getting reported back to the higher-ups. There's this old saying, there might be things the emperor doesn't know, but nothing gets past to Draker. Right now Zeke's feeling the truth of that hit him hard. Arthur doesn't waste time with BS. He called Zeke here because he heard Duke Draker took him as a student. Zeke plays it down though, saying Dexter's just doing him a solid. Arthur's not totally sure what his son's endgame is, but he admits that learning from Duke will definitely lead to good things. But before he can keep going, Zeke cuts him off. His goal isn't just learning from Dexter. His goal is to become the strongest man on the entire continent. Arthur's eyes go sharp hearing that, and Zeke's not done. He swears he'll surpass everyone and get so strong that he can live however the hell he wants. That's what he's after, and nothing's going to stop him. Arthur's just staring at his son. Then without saying anything, he lets his aura slip out just a little bit to make a point. The whole room gets heavy. Zeke's body tenses up as this invisible pressure just surrounds him. A chill runs down his back. This isn't a regular aura. This is the astral sword, the thing that supposedly gives you control over every living thing in range. Only the most elite Black Knights can even pull this off. Just feeling it makes Zeke's breath catch in his throat. Arthur's eyes are gleaming with something Zeke can't quite read. Maybe he's amused. Maybe he's testing him. Zeke realizes he ran his mouth too much and said things he probably shouldn't have. But even with his father's power crushing down on him, he refuses to fold. Gritting his teeth, he stands his ground. He doesn't take it back, doesn't retreat. Instead, he doubles down, looking Arthur dead in the eye. Yeah, his goal is to surpass even his own father, and no matter what it takes, he's making it happen. Arthur watches Zeke for a second, then pulls back his astral sword, looking satisfied. The crushing pressure vanishes instantly as he calmly sips his tea. He admits that what Zeke just said is the most interesting thing he's heard in years. Originally, Arthur came here to support the academy and his youngest son, but after seeing how much Zeke's grown, he's wondering if that's going to be enough. He reaches into his fancy suit and pulls out something small, sliding it across the table. Zeke looks at it, a black card with the Draker family symbol on it. For a second, he's just stunned. He always thought Black Knights like Dexter were as strong as it gets. But his father? This man's on a completely different level. Seeing the black card in person makes Zeke uncomfortable. He's stumbling over his words, and Arthur smirks. He can tell his son already gets what this means. This isn't just any card, it's the card, the ultimate flex. Only a handful of people ever get one, and with it comes basically everything. No spending limit, access to the most elite places, and influence that goes beyond money. It's basically an infinite money glitch. Arthur casually explains that the card's under both their names, so Zeke can use it whenever. But Zeke's not stupid. He knows the real reason for this gift. Every time you use a black card, it leaves a trail. It's just another way to keep an eye on him. Still, the fact that Arthur went with this instead of sticking a whole squad on him to follow him around means one thing: the patriarch doesn't see him as a threat. Not yet anyway. Zeke swallows his unease and takes the card, promising to only use it when he really needs to. Arthur waves him off with some final encouragement. If Zeke really wants to to be the strongest, then he better get to work. Zeke bows one last time, thanking the master of the Draker family, then walks out with his head spinning. As the door closes behind him, Arthur leans back with his eyes shut, thinking his youngest son's ambition caught him off guard. But it's interesting. Then the quiet gets broken. Dexter walks right in without bothering with any formal crap. "You're a disgusting old man," he says. Arthur opens one eye completely unbothered. "Why so pissed off?" Dexter crosses his arms. "So now you're playing daddy after a lifetime of being absent?" Arthur doesn't even flinch, but for the first time in years, someone's actually calling him out on his BS, and Dexter's just about the only guy with the strength and the balls to do it. Arthur sighs, saying he had no choice. This is what comes with being head of the household. Leadership demands sacrifices. Plus, what Dexter's saying is basically slander against the patriarch himself. Dexter's not buying it. He drops onto the couch, stretching out as he looks Arthur in the eye. "Then go ahead, arrest me," he says, daring him. Arthur chuckles, dropping the act. Out of everyone on the continent, Dexter is the only one he can actually talk to like a normal person. Reaching into a suit again, Arthur pulls out something way more valuable than gold, a bottle of dragon's breath, some rare expensive booze. He offers Dexter a drink to go with their chat, and just like that, Dexter's mood flips. He smirks, admitting that if nothing else, Arthur's got damn good taste in alcohol. With drinks poured, Arthur finally gets to the real topic, the weird tension that's been hanging over the continent. Dexter acts like he doesn't know what Arthur's talking about, claiming he's been minding his business at the academy, but Arthur knows better. Dexter has eyes and ears everywhere. Dexter exhales deeply, setting his glass aside. "Why pose a question to which you already possess the response?" Arthur refrains from disputing, merely biding his time. After a moment, Dexter inclines closer, his tone lowering. "The Emperor has descended into madness, fixated on the notion of eternal life. He's dismantling the whole continent in search of anything that could provide him with even the slightest clue." Arthur acknowledges, completely unfazed. He has been contemplating the same notion. Indeed, magic can decelerate the aging process, but true immortality? That's a myth. An achievement no one has ever accomplished and likely never will. However, there is one aspect that has him concerned. The Emperor is not merely pursuing an illusion. He is seeking something tangible, something connected to the ancient dragon. As these two prominent figures engage in their private conference, are there boys in the adjacent room with their ears pressed against the wall? Zeke poised nonchalantly with his hands nestled in his pockets, employing his spiritual manifestation skill. This dialogue is pure treasure. Arthur proposes a notion that the Emperor is likely in pursuit of a certain artifact linked to the ancient dragon, and Dexter's perched there, contemplating. You know what? That truly adds up. But then arrives the genuine shocker. What if this madman has already discovered it? Arthur's simply idly stirring his beverage, mulling it over, and concedes, yes, it's conceivable. His own execution squad, the Brotherhood of Dark Warriors, has been conducting their research diligently, and every path converges at a singular destination, the northern landmass. Now that brings Dexter's focus momentarily. The reality that he is only becoming aware of this now indicates that the Empire's intelligence network has yet to pick up on it, but they certainly will. It's merely a question of time before chaos ensues. This entire fixation on immortality evokes some grim recollections for Dexter. He reminisces about when this complete maniac, upon ascending the throne, the Emperor promptly initiated a widespread conflict across the continent, merely to flex the lunatic subdued half of the central territories before he ultimately relaxed. And now it appears that history is poised to repeat itself. Dexter had naively believed that the Emperor would eventually relinquish this obsession with eternal life. But no, he was utterly mistaken. If this madman truly acquires an object that bestows immortality, the whole continent is doomed. However, Arthur is not inclined to allow that to transpire. Considering the gravity of the situation, he has already reached his decision. He is traveling north to address it directly. Meanwhile, Dexter remains seated, thinking, are you out of your mind? Because Arthur's departure from the central continent essentially invites catastrophe. In his absence, near to restrain the power-thirsty monarch, that scoundrel will rampage and obliterate all in his way. However, this is precisely the reason Arthur arrived today. Certainly, he delivered a lackluster motivational address to the trainees, but the true motive? He needed to inform Dexter about his grand scheme, and he was fully aware of how the elderly gentleman would respond. Opposition is pointless, however. Dexter comprehends that he has no alternative permits. He lets out a lengthy, exasperated sigh and, with reluctance, lifts his glass for a toast. Very well, but don't anticipate me to be cordial while you're away. Arthur merely chuckles, fully aware of this scoundrel's nature. The cantankerous elder protector of the academy is out here lamenting as if this is the most dreadful day of his existence, yet Arthur understands the reality, regardless of how much he gripes and complains. Dexter is perfectly adept at keeping everything in order. In the adjacent chamber, Zeke is facing the highest cost for being inquisitive. His entire physique is howling in agony, his sight is becoming hazy, and he has been employing soul manifestation for far too long. The repercussions strike him like a freight train. His legs give way, and before he realizes it, he's plunged face down onto the ground, gasping for breath with bloodshot eyes, resembling someone who just battled Mike Tyson for 12 rounds. Even after a similar assimilating Bahamut's heart. The aftereffects of this technique are no trifling matter. But you know what? Absolutely worth the effort, for what he has just discovered is priceless. Everything is beginning to align. The statue he seized prior to his regression? It wasn't merely a random artifact, it was the Elder Dragon's relic all along. The enigmatic voice he encountered before his demise, along with the peculiar system notifications when he awakened in his youthful form, are all becoming clear now. Unbeknownst to him, his former self had pilfered the very artifact that the Emperor was fixated on. It's no surprise he was hunted like a dog with a price on his head. That deranged tyrant deployed his most elite squad, sending them to pursue him to the farthest reaches of the earth. At that time, Zeke was so engulfed in vengeance that he never questioned the intensity of his pursuit. However, at this moment, he possesses a tangible lead regarding his regression. The administrative system that transported him to the past is linked to the Elder Dragon's relic, which only prompts further inquiries. Who on earth could construct such a thing? How formidable were they? And, crucially, why? Perched on the ground, attempting to regain his composure, Zeke acknowledges that he pursued clarity, only to uncover even greater enigmas ahead for him. Thus, the pair of Draker big shots conclude their beverages and close up shop. Dexter reassures, "Sure, I'll take care of it." Arthur is agreeable to this since he trusts that the individual delivers outcomes. However, just as he's on the verge of leaving, Arthur suddenly halts. The entire atmosphere in the corridor transforms, and this guy's gaze fixates on the entrance where Zeke is concealed as if he possesses X-ray sight. In the meantime, Zeke remains entirely unaware of how near he is to being discovered, still ensnared in his own thoughts as he attempts to unravel the complexities of immortality and temporal displacement. If he truly pilfered the Emperor's relic, why did everyone associate it with eternal life? Suddenly, he perceives it, footfalls, weighty ones, and every instinct within Zeke's being begins to alert. Arthur is uncomfortably near the entrance. The door swings ajar, revealing Arthur's frigid staircase sweeping through the chamber, yet the space is vacant. Zeke executed a timely getaway, already halfway through the window when Arthur entered, evading what could have been the most uncomfortable "hey dad" encounter ever. Arthur brushes aside the strange sensation and leaves, unaware of how near he truly came. Transition to several hours later, Zeke finds himself once again at the Western Greenhouse Arena, engaged in his customary training regimen. It's intended to be a peaceful, uninterrupted day, yet the diligent Decker, in his relentless pursuit to please, utterly disregards that notion. He enters with an air of contrition, bowing and stating that a pupil arrived in search of him. Zeke instantly reacts with, "What? Since who would make an effort to come and see him? This individual has no companions in this location." However, he's inquisitive, so he instructs Decker to allow whoever it is to enter. Is present. He was unprepared for Liam Stone to enter that doorway. The moment this fellow named Jack steps in, he inclines his head as if greeting nobility. Zeke's gaze sharpens, filled with intense suspicion. What's this fellow's motive? Then Liam, in a tone of utmost seriousness, outright pleads to accompany him. Zeke lets out an exasperated breath, already berating himself for not simply cutting off this individual when he was reprimanding Jekken. Thus, "Are you indicating that you wish to be employed by me?" he inquires, evidently unimpressed. Liam bows his head even further and vows to remain faithful. This moment surprises Zeke unexpectedly, causing him to elevate an brow. What transpired to all that allegiance you held for Jekken? The moment he utters that name, Liam's entire countenance transforms. The guy appears infuriated for a moment before he elaborates. He was abandoned, and without formidable Draker supporting him, there's no chance he'll gain entry into Valhalla as an apprentice. Zeke's thoughts drift back to his former existence. Liam was precisely the same during that time. He could never comprehend why this individual was so fixated on Valhalla. However, one thing was evident: he would plead, grovel, and do just about anything to gain admission. Zeke clicks his tongue and outright dismisses him. "You're incredibly foolish if you're that eager. Go annoy to Run or Zimmons instead." He gestures him away, making it abundantly clear that he isn't operating a charity for individuals to exploit. Furthermore, he knows he can't even assist Liam in entering Valhalla. Additionally, Zeke has absolutely no incentive to place trust in anything this man claims. For all he knows, this muscle-bound brute could be an informant. Jekken has been dispatched to seek retribution. The uncertainty in Zeke's tone is evident, and Liam doesn't attempt to dispute it. Rather, he demonstrates. In a swift motion, he extracts a blade from his belt. His gaze constricts, prepared for confrontation. However, Liam refrains from hurrying him. Instead, this complete lunatic directs the knife towards himself, and with a single, without a moment's pause, he swiftly severs his own left ear. Zeke merely remains in place, observing as Liam discards his severed ear onto the earth as if it were insignificant. Liam inhales unsteadily, his expression still profoundly grave. "I understand. You have doubts about me, yet I will go to any lengths to demonstrate my sincerity." Then, with an unsettling intensity, he intensifies his resolve. "If you desire my silence, I will sever my tongue. If you wish for me to be disabled, I will remove my own foot." Zeke cannot portray this as excessive, nearly mad conduct, yet Liam is not joking. The tremor in his voice, the crimson streaming down his face. This isn't merely a performance. Observing him standing there quaking, clenching his jaw against the agony, Zeke's thoughts dart back to a different occasion, another detached ear. It's not a recollection he enjoys pondering, not in the slightest. However, witnessing Liam exerted himself to the utmost limit merely for a chance to pursue him. He cannot avoid recalling when he occupied that precise location. A pause. Battered, battle-hardened warrior with only fury in his gaze, bowing before his former mentor, pleading to surpass all others. Thus, he resolved to grant Liam an opportunity to demonstrate his capabilities. He hurls his blade directed at him, declaring, "I shall accept you as my subordinate, provided you can endure a single strike from me." Just for a moment, Liam is assured that he is capable of accomplishing that. While our lad is exceptionally powerful, Liam is also the forthcoming hired soldier. Sovereign. However, no, because as our lad uttered those phrases, the atmosphere changed, and Liam recognized that there was no possibility of him defeating Zeke, yet he opted to attempt it regardless. Both charged towards one another, and, as fate would have it, events unfolded accordingly. Liam was defeated. Awfully. It was so dreadful that even our son was taken aback. Thus, Zeke attempts to exit, believing he has concluded this dialogue, when he observes that the imposing figure still bears that obstinate expression. He exhales deeply and imparts some insight. "Dude, disregard Valhalla, seek an alternative route." However, Liam's not accepting it. Observe, here's the situation. Subsequent to Zeke humiliating the pampered child, Jekken, the guy was discarded like last week's refuse. And Liam, he's from some obscure offshoot family. Thus, without serving as Jekken's subordinate, he would have never approached the situation. To this institution, if they are prepared to expel Zeke, an outright troublemaker, they will easily discard someone like Liam without a second thought. Zeke begins to stroll away, believing it has concluded. However, he then senses a weight pressing against his leg. He gazes downward, and Liam is grasping onto him as if his existence hinges on it. In a previous era, Liam was dismissed from school, causing his group to disband. Yet, fueled by sheer resentment and determination, he transformed into a crimson warrior and attained the moniker of the mercenary monarch. Now, he's genuinely weeping, pleading for another opportunity. Zeke's forbearance is dwindling. Alright, one final opportunity. Don't mess it up. But there's a twist. Liam claimed he would do anything, silence himself, sever his limbs, whatever it takes. So, Zeke strikes him with an utterly outrageous demand. "Sever your right arm." The chamber falls utterly quiet. Zeke is essentially instructing him to abandon his aspirations of becoming a swordsman. Farewell. Any ordinary individual would promptly decline. Zeke pivots away and commences training, anticipating that Liam will ultimately concede and depart. Rather, this lunatic approaches a blade. Zeke believes it's inconsequential. Liam will still attain legendary status even if he's expelled. But then it dawns on him. Liam is genuinely going to follow through. He seizes the sword, lifts it aloft, and targets his own forearm. Zeke's physique operates on intuition, propelling his legs to their limits. Just prior to Liam being able to descend it, Zeke's blade gleams and severs Liam's armament in two. The clash reverberates throughout the Colosseum. Liam gazes at his unscathed arm as if he's unable to comprehend why it remains. In the meantime, Zeke is furious. He seizes the large fool by the collar and hoists him into the air. "Have you utterly lost your mind?" Certainly, the examination was intense. But what if Zeke had been the sort to renege on his promise? Liam would have sacrificed everything for naught. Yet, Liam was prepared to take that risk because there was something far more significant to him than his own limb. Zeke releases him and directs a frosty glare his way. "Act now. That's foolish once more, and you're finished. I don't mind how devoted you are." The pressure ultimately departs from Liam's visage. Those severe remarks indicate he will remain. However, there persists one issue. "We must escort you to the nurse. Cannot have my buddy strolling about resembling a one-eared oddball." Following his treatment, Liam receives an invitation to Zeke's exclusive dining room. He maintains, gently prodding his immobile ear, astonished that it has returned to its usual state. It appears that Zeke utilized one of his uncommon restorative elixirs on him. Liam is remorseful about squandering such a precious possession. However, Zeke merely dismisses it. Consider it a financial venture. As the situation has settled, Zeke poses the critical inquiry. What could conceivably hold greater significance than your own limb? The response is straightforward. His mother. Following Jekken's rejection, Liam received word that his mother had fainted due to an extremely high fever. She recovered, but soon peculiar rose-like markings began to appear on her body, depleting her vitality. Zeke's expression turns somber. He identifies those signs. The village practitioners were oblivious to what it was or how to remedy it. Liam's sole aspiration was Valhalla, as students of the academy and their relatives receive access to the finest physicians on the continent. If he were to gain admission, his mother could have a chance. Zeke exhales deeply. Now he understands. Silently, he seizes a pen and begins noting the indications. Crimson, petal-like patterns, recurrent high temperatures. He is all too familiar with this illness. Over the years, the whole central landmass will be devastated by the rose blight, a wildly infectious disease with a devastating mortality rate. Numerous individuals will perish before a remedy is discovered. Zeke offers Liam a document containing the prescription that can remedy his mother. The procedures are straightforward, and the components are not uncommon. Any local practitioner can concoct it. Liam is bewildered yet grateful. doubtful. How can this be? Community specialists who dedicated their entire lives to the study of healing were unable to solve it, yet this young warrior effortlessly produced the remedy in mere moments. In the times ahead, these brilliant alchemist siblings will develop this remedy and preserve innumerable lives. However, prior to making it available at no cost, the Alchemist Guild will monopolize it, peddling it at exorbitant rates. Ultimately, the siblings will divulge the formula to the public. Clearly, Zeke is unable to articulate everything, so he simply states that he is acquainted with a reputable alchemist. With the remedy in his possession, Liam essentially has no justification to align himself with Valhalla or remain with Zeke any longer. His most significant issue has just been resolved, yet Liam perceives it differently. He remains standing up, gazing with utmost seriousness. He is a man of his commitment and he is assured to devote his existence to aiding Zeke. He kneels and vows his fidelity for eternity. After dedicating the entire day to attempting to drive this enormous simpleton off, listening to the impending mercenary monarch vow his allegiance is genuinely quite comforting. Zeke consents with a last caution: don't lag behind or I'll be abandoning you. In the meantime, within Dean Howard Draker's chamber, Owen Zimmons arrives with a daring suggestion. We ought to elevate the challenge of this semester's assessments. The dean arches an eyebrow. It's not common for a student to make such a request. Owen expresses regret if he comes across as arrogant but clarifies his reasoning. This year's first-year students are particularly impressive, featuring applicants from large families and 2 pure-blooded awakeners. If the assessment remains at the previous year's standard, it won't accurately assess their capabilities. Howard contemplates this and offers a slight nod. The children have a valid argument. Owen inclines his head and rebounds. The dean reclines, gazing out the window. The fruit is not far removed from the branch. Owen Zimmons is already contemplating the future, just like that individual identifying potential issues and addressing them prior to their emergence. A few days later, it's time for assessments. Let the dungeon delving commence. The first-year students are positioned outside these eerie ruins, prepared to dive in. Here's the process. You are matched with another individual, cast into a random subterranean chamber, and you must find a way out before the clock expires. Each chamber presents varying degrees of challenge, and naturally, Zeke and Liam find themselves teamed up. Despite being fully equipped and prepared, Liam appears extremely anxious. Zeke glances over. It imparts some insightful advice. Understand that feeling anxious is natural. Just ensure it doesn't derail you. Excessive pressure leads to foolish errors, while being overly at ease results in carelessness. Surrounding them, a few students are conversing animatedly and exuberantly, while others remain frozen in uncomfortable silence. Suddenly, a guard calls out for Zeke, Draker, and Liam Stone. They advance towards the nearest entrance, but just as they are about to enter, a suspicious figure in dark gloves obstructs their way. Wait a moment, the man says. Then a security officer from the academy brandishes a weapon and gestures towards a distinct entrance, situated all the way on the opposite side of the chamber. You have been designated to that cell. Zeke's gaze darts toward the sentinel, and he immediately realizes something. The man's demeanor appears excessively rigid, as if he is concealing something dubious. Zeke merely exhales. No matter what predicament this may be, he is assured he can manage it. Now, here's the arrangement regarding these assessments. The team has 96 hours to break free. Time is the true adversary here. Indeed, combat abilities are evaluated. Additionally, you can accumulate bonus points by retrieving monster heads. However, none of that holds any significance if you don't exit before the timer strikes 0. Failing to escape results in an automatic defeat. Within the cavern, the initial phase of their expedition is unexpectedly relaxed. It merely consists of an extended passage through some archaic remnants. After some time, they ultimately pause to recuperate. Stomachs satisfied, with no threats looming. An ideal moment to seize some slumber. Curiously, despite being the subordinate, Liam is the one instructing Zeke to rest first, as the young noble handled all the preparations for the campsite, prepared the meal, and managed everything. However, Zeke merely dismisses him with a wave, claiming that with his present physique, he can endure 4 days without rest. Honestly, I could pull an all-nighter during the entire examination. Liam is wise enough to refrain from disputing with this guy, so he hauls his substantial figure into the tent and collapses heavily. Now solitary, Zeke perches beside the flames, drifting into a trance. It has been 16 hours since they ventured into the labyrinth, and he had been honing his skills relentlessly for 3 consecutive days prior to the assessment. This indicates that our young hero has remained awake for almost 90 hours without interruption. His boundless endurance propels his physique, yet it does nothing to alleviate his mental fatigue. Furthermore, in a catacomb where peril may emerge from virtually any darkness, a momentary lapse in concentration could result in demise. The unsettling stillness lingers, and he senses the fatigue seeping in, toying with his mind. He desires to rouse Liam and make a change, but then he commits the gravest error possible. He drifts into slumber. His visions pull him back to those frigid Assign aircraft in the northern region, where the Emperor's crimson banner essentially served as an enormous gesture of defiance representing brutality and violence. A female body rests before him, her lifeblood seeping into the snow, creating a ghastly juxtaposition that sears itself into his recollection. Zeke's eyes spring wide, gasping for air, his body soaked in perspiration. For a moment he remains motionless, partially anticipating that the horror will seep into the waking world. However, no, the flames are still flickering, and the chamber remains tranquil. It was merely an illusion. Nevertheless, he would prefer to battle an entire legion of creatures rather than revisit that recollection once more. Something captures his focus. A noise, one of his bell traps, has just been triggered. Zeke's instincts kick into high gear. He seizes his water container and swiftly extinguishes the flames, enveloping everything in obscurity. Liam, arise immediately. As he awakens, Zeke leans his back against the wall, meticulously assessing the circumstances. Suddenly, a foul odor assaults him, intense and pungent. Sulfur. His intellect swiftly links the connections. There exists solely one entity that emits such an odor. A hellhound, a beast that prowls in groups, classified as danger level 3. However, there's a catch. In his previous existence during this very assessment, the leading scholar, Reyna, had tracked an orc. Zeke had never encountered a dungeon containing hellhounds. Something seems amiss. He remains patient for the creature to appear, yet it remains absent. Instead, he observes something even more peculiar. An alpha hellhound ought to tip the scales at a few hundred kilograms at most. However, based on the profound growling reverberations ricocheting off the cave walls, whatever approaches must weigh multiple tons. Utilizing his sword as if it were a reflective surface, Zeke skillfully maneuvers it around the bend. His swift cognition rescues him, just moments before noticing the approaching cargo locomotive of a behemoth hurtling directly towards them. With sheer physical power, the creature bursts through the entrance and barriers as if they were composed of parchment. The blast propels Zeke through the air, yet he rotates while suspended, and alights flawlessly on his feet. Liam hurries to his side, eyes wide in complete distress, yet Zeke merely mutters a curse, the Zimmons. In that fleeting moment prior to collision, he noticed an object, a bauble concealed within the Academy Guard's attire, a distinctive emblem associated with the Zimmons lineage. So, that's the situation. He anticipated some dubious actions, yet this surpasses his expectations. Filthy, the infernal beast he anticipated, already lifeless, its head neatly severed. A colossal troll is nonchalantly grasping it as its battle prize. Zeke's gaze constricts. They bypassed hellhounds entirely. They proceed directly to employing trolls as mercenary assassins. Meanwhile, Liam is immobilized in sheer dread. Trolls are tier 1 creatures that are a minimum of 2 tiers above the standard challenge of these assessments. Liam ultimately comes to his senses and readies his sword, informing our companion, "I'll fend it off. You escape." Zeke merely chuckles, then shoves Liam aside, stating, "Never utter foolish remarks like that again. I don't abandon my comrades when it counts." Then he adds, "Don't place your faith in me. Have confidence in yourself, since Liam is not feeble." Zeke understands it. As an experiment, Zeke lingers and permits. Liam prepares a meal. As soon as he begins, Liam's tension dissipates and he enters the zone. They charge at the troll from either flank, severing it in unison. Zeke is intentionally restraining himself to align with Liam's speed. And to be truthful, our lad is delivering precise strikes against the troll's resilient hide. Moreover, he is also honing in on the connections. However, Liam remains inexperienced. A single misstep with the troll's barbed mace almost reduces him to a pulp. Zeke immediately bridges the distance, obstructs it effortlessly, and cleaves the weapon flawlessly in two. Liam falters backward, expressing remorse. Yet, Zeke is indifferent. "You excelled in your inaugural genuine battle." Now the troll is furious, unarmed, and prepared to engage in combat. Prior to Liam might falter once more, Zeke advances. "Understood. I am concluding this. Therefore, our lad Zeke just completely obliterated this troll in just a matter of seconds." The unfortunate soul had no idea what struck him before he was transformed into minced meat. The elimination earned Zeke 30 karma points, which is quite substantial. Additionally, it will enhance their test results. While Liam is occupied gathering any valuable remnants from the carcass, Zeke receives a fresh system alert. Eliminate 100 creatures from 10 distinct species within 72 hours. The incentive? Double karma points for each defeat along with 2 enigmatic containers. Our guy notices the term double, and his eyes genuinely sparkle with avarice. He's already calculating in his mind. Now, vanquishing 100 creatures in 79 hours? Child's play. The actual challenge lies in locating 10 distinct species when the majority of dungeon assessments typically feature a maximum of 4 varieties. However, Zeke suddenly recalls that the Zimmon bastards manipulated this entire environment in an attempt to eliminate him, which implies they likely filled it with an array of elite creatures. The joke's on them nonetheless, as that is precisely what he requires at this moment. Thus, while he must balance this mission, endure, and perform admirably on the test, Zeke is thinking, "Yes, I have this under control." Following, Liam completes his plundering and ventures further into the catacombs. It's time to seek out prey. Transition to a montage, and the atmosphere is rapidly advancing. A group of fiery wolves eradicated. 56 hours remaining. A goblin lair utterly harvested. The elimination tally is soaring, and their loot sacks becoming exceedingly burdensome. 39 hours left. Following that, they confront this colossal bat that unleashes to sonic assaults capable of shattering your eardrums, yet they manage to defeat it as well. Over the last 2 days, the pattern has been consistently lethal. Set up camp, relax, and do it again. By the conclusion, by now, they have accumulated sufficient eliminations to ensure a strong examination grade. They are relaxing near the campfire when Zeke inquires of Liam how he is coping with actual warfare. Liam, ever modest, rubs his scalp, expressing that he senses he still has a considerable journey ahead. Indeed, adjusting to all this carnage isn't something one acclimatizes to in an instant. That's quite typical. However, Zeke faces more significant challenges. The clock is ticking down as he remains at 99 creatures from 9 distinct varieties. He requires just one additional species but is unable to locate it anywhere. He has been so frantic that he's even attempted to eliminate leeches and insects the size of a finger. Yet, the system responds with a firm, no, that doesn't qualify. Zeke is becoming exasperated as these pesky Zimmons took the effort to populate this dungeon with formidable creatures aimed at eliminating him, yet somehow failed to execute it well enough to reward him with that 10th species. Suddenly, Zeke's instinctive senses ignite and the earth begins to tremble violently, with stones ricocheting in every direction. Liam scans his surroundings, bewildered as the vibrations intensify, fissures extending across the ground. The entire cursed grotto is quaking. Zeke comprehends precisely what this signifies. He reserves. He charged at Liam, unsheathing his blade in the midst of his run, shouting, "Set down the bag and proceed." Yet Liam is moving sluggishly. Zeke pushes him aside just as something colossal erupts from the earth. Blood spreads throughout, tinting the entire cave crimson. Liam's mind completely collapses into a state of utter panic when he notices Zeke's sleeve completely shredded and his left arm appearing as though it had been through a meat grinder. He hurries over, but Zeke merely gestures him away as if it's inconsequential. "Relax, it's not even my blood." It appears our lad executed a brilliant strategy by pressing Liam while simultaneously launching a counteroffensive. Subsequently, the genuine issue emerges from its hiding place, a colossal terror propelled by nightmares. Dungeon Serpent. Liam's throat tightens. Arid, as these elements typically require 8 violet champions merely to overcome. This was the Zamon's trump card, their ultimate betrayal. Liam stood paralyzed, observing this burrowing behemoth ravage the cavern like an unchecked locomotive. He yearned to assist but was acutely aware of the grim reality. He would merely hinder progress and most likely meet his end. Consequently, he begins to urgently rummage through their provisions, searching for anything that could assist. In the meantime, Zeke is going utterly berserk, parrying countless needle-like fangs hurtling toward him from every direction. The worms are genuinely gnawing their way through the soil as they advance, indicating they are on a time constraint. If Zeke doesn't resolve this swiftly, they're either being entombed alive or transformed into human sashimi. The creature charges once more, piercing through solid stone. Zeke evades at the final moment, ducking mere inches from being flattened. At this moment, he has a chance. When the creature emerges for oxygen, Zeke propels himself forward forcefully, thrusting his weapon. Profoundly immersed in its vial, throbbing, the blow lands, yet it fails to finish it off. He clenches his jaw and slices the blade through its skin, splitting it wide apart. Lavender, bile and blood simply burst forth from the creature's maw, scattering in all directions. The object is flailing wildly, yet Zeke remains undeterred. The man is now completely in a lethal mindset. Just as he prepares to deliver the fatal strike, the earth beneath him collapses. He has inadvertently stepped onto a void, completely disrupting his equilibrium. The worm seizes its opportunity and coils around him like a colossal anaconda. The tension is overwhelming. Zeke perceives his joints groaning and his insides being compressed. He expels blood as the worm continues to constrict more forcefully, attempting to break him like a slender branch. Then suddenly from out of nowhere, a blade pierces inside the worm's concealment. Liam blatantly disregarded commands and rushed in regardless, piercing the creature to attract its attention. The assault doesn't eliminate it, but it causes the worm to weaken its hold just sufficiently. Zeke's self-recovery mechanism activates, repairing his damaged organs, and that's precisely the opportunity he requires. He wriggles loose, performs an unsettling somersault through the atmosphere, and touches down at a secure distance. "Liam, what on earth did you just pull off?" Zeke inquires. Liam raises his blade, clarifying that he smeared it with a sedative. Zeke's eyes widen in shock because the primary component in that sedative is belladonna, which for worms is essentially immediate fatal toxin. In spite of all the stress and turmoil, Liam recalled the worm's vulnerability and modified his approach instantly. This is evidence of his innate ability, a fleeting view of the warlord he is destined to become. Honoring the decisive performance, Zeke chooses to include Liam in the ultimate assault. Completely mended, he erupts, advancing at optimal velocity, frantically ascending the enormous form of the worm to extract his lodged blade. He meets Liam's gaze and conveys the cue. Liam clenches his jaw, expending all his energy into one final thrust, injecting additional belladonna toxin into the creature. The worm plummets forcefully, convulsing, as if it were experiencing a convulsion. This signals Zeke. He initiates the embodiment of the spirit. His sword glows with an intense violet radiance, a singular, seamless cut, and the dungeon worm is severed precisely in two. The remains plummet, convulsing blinking several times before becoming entirely motionless. Zeke arrives exuding an effortless charm, while system alerts begin to inundate his sight. Mission accomplished, all his karma points have doubled as assured. Additionally, he received 2 random loot chests. Current total, 780 karma points and a plethora of choices to explore. The tableau transitions, and now we find ourselves beyond the subterranean chamber. All the cadets are arranged in a row, anticipating the announcement of their results. The teacher approaches with a grave expression and instructs all the survivors to step forward for evaluation. The rest can leave. When Reina's name is announced, she advances, and the instructor begins to recite her statistics. You fled, that's 30 points. Along with you eliminated 20 goblins, 2 hobgoblins, and an orc. In total, 180 points. The entire audience becomes hushed. This guy just came within 20 points of Abel's renowned 200-point record, and Abel's true-blooded nobility. Everyone's astonished because Tarun surpassed by a substantial margin of 130 points. Coming up is Owen, who is informed that he achieved a score of 120, surpassing the minimum by 70 points. The teacher's response is fairly positive, yet it's evident that Owen is merely indifferent about it. Nothing extraordinary. In the meantime, Owen is positioned off to the side, observing the unfolding events, and he's engaged in an extensive inner dialogue regarding how, should Reina pose a challenge, they will handle him in the same manner they managed Zeke, essentially suggesting they attempted to assassinate him. Suddenly, an individual chimes in nonchalantly. Goodness, how much time has passed since I last experienced natural light? Everyone spins around and there stands Zeke emerging from behind a cluster of boulders, nonchalantly hauling a decapitated creature's head as if it were a shopping bag. The whole audience goes wild. Individuals are murmuring, how is he still breathing? Is that a dungeon serpent? Hold on, wasn't the orc meant to be the antagonist? Then Liam advances and simply lets an urn fall to the floor without uttering a sound. Zeke gazes directly at Owen with a self-satisfied smirk and remarks, you appear taken aback. Don't inform me that you're genuinely pleased to see me. Owen's jaw tightens, and he murmurs arrogant jerk. Zeke squats low, still smirking like a fiend, and remarks, that impassive expression of yours is far more impressive when it shatters. Owen remains silent, simply pivoting and striding away furiously. As he strides away, Zeke shouts, departing already, and Owen is grumbling quietly to himself about how those of pure lineage consistently regard him with disdain and how eventually they will all face consequences for it. A few cadets are positioned there, clutching their tokens, uncertain of what to contemplate, and Zeke merely shrugs and remarks, horrifying, with the utmost sarcasm. Then, the instructor Andre strides forward, visibly irritated, and inquires, are you done flaunting? Zeke responds, it's been some time, and Andre dons a pair of gloves in preparation for the assessment. Zeke glances at the worm's head and inquires if they genuinely require undertaking all of this, but Andre interrupts him right away, stating, while he assesses, nothing is overlooked. He observes that Zeke's collection pouch is absent, and Zeke confesses. He snapped. Andre kneels and begins examining the worm's head intimately, and this is where it becomes astonishing. The worm had genuinely surprised Zeke and devoured all that he had gathered over a span of 3 days. Thus, Zeke excelled and secured its head as evidence. Andre is scrutinizing the teeth and discovers remnants of gremlins, goblins, hobgoblins, hellhounds, orcs, and even a troll lodged within from earlier feasts. The entire audience inhales sharply once more. Andre rises and proclaims that, to ensure fairness, he will only tally one of each species. Then he unveils the shocking news. Trolls are valued at 90 points, and the value of the worms is 180. What is Zeke's aggregate? 368 marks. The venue falls completely quiet, as that is an astonishing achievement. One guy even inquires what the highest achievement was during their era. However, naturally, a guy begins to shout about how it's a swindle since there's merely a single body. Zeke composedly informs him that a single worm head is valued at 180 points and inquires whether any of them genuinely believe they could endure an encounter with a dungeon worm or troll. While he converses, Zeke contemplates internally how individuals are genuinely responding this time rather than ridiculing him. He understands that Zimmons must have manipulated the previous trial to eliminate him, and he casts a glance at Owen, aware that he is entangled in this somehow but not acting alone. Zeke concludes he must maintain his role and avoid being overly cautious or they may become wary. Subsequently, Reina advances and declares, this time you prevail. Zeke responds, what does that mean? Signify? However, the scene transitions. Subsequently in the training center, Zeke is examining his status screen, and there exists a dragon ability known as Gluttony, which can be acquired for 50 points. He possesses 780 karma accumulated, so he activates it. The description evolves to clarify that he can now ingest anything and transform it into energy. Additionally, he can assimilate monsters. Capabilities. Zeke is exhilarated because he understands he ought to have attempted this earlier. He experiments with some desiccated meat. As soon as Gluttony is triggered, the flesh is drawn into this obsidian abyss as if being engulfed by a marsh. A notification emerges indicating that his lost vitality has been restored, and abruptly Zeke senses an overwhelming sense of completeness. Renewed. His migraine has vanished and he no longer feels fatigued. Subsequently, he understands he can manage manage the energy expenditure of all his capabilities now, which signifies an end to cognitive breakdowns. Paired with boundless endurance, he can practically train around the clock without any interruptions. Just as he is on the verge of commencing, Decker arrives, stating that it is imperative. Zeke's blade is prepared. Our lad instantly invigorates and proceeds to Galleon. In his previous existence, Galleon crafted him a mythical sword, and on this occasion, Zeke presented him with Serpent's Tooth. Thus he anticipates something just as extraordinary. However, upon laying eyes on the blade, he halts abruptly and squints his eyes, as this is utterly bewildering. However, he resolved to investigate it regardless, and the initial aspect he observed was that this object appeared incomplete. It was as though, "Hey, did you overlook the final step?" He turns to Galleon, bewildered, asking, "Hey, did you just give me a blade without a sharp edge? Did you neglect to hone this item or something?" Yet Galleon remains entirely unfazed, simply nodding and affirming, "Yes, that's precisely how it ought to be." Zeke subsequently examines it and remarks, "So this is what you believe complements me most effectively?" Galleon responds with an effortless affirmative without pausing for a moment. Zeke falls silent for a moment because, truthfully, the majority of individuals would gaze at this uninteresting blade and think, "Seriously, what's this all about?" However, Galleon comprehends it effortlessly without him needing to clarify a single thing. Then Galleon delivers another surprise. The sword doesn't even possess a title yet. He attempted to come up with one, but nothing seemed fitting, so he desires Zeke to designate it himself. Currently, Zeke is taken aback because, in the past, Galleon crafted this mythical sword known as Solar Raiden's Gram. He assumed this was merely Gram 2.0 fashioned from a dragon's tooth. However, as he grips it now, he comprehends that this is entirely distinct. Absent caution, our lad simply drags the weapon directly over his hand, and crimson begins to flow. Galleon's eyes widen in astonishment, like, "Dude, what on earth are you up to?" However, Zeke remains unfazed. His regenerative ability activates as expected, then unexpectedly just ceases. A notification appears, upstating that his restorative ability was momentarily deactivated, and Zeke smirks, as this indicates that it functioned precisely as intended. He directs his mana directly into the bloodstream, allowing it to envelop the blade, and I assure you, the metal genuinely absorbs it as if it has been parched for ages. The vessel remains frozen in astonishment, and then it dawns on him. Hold on, is he performing a sword naming ceremony? Observe, this is an archaic and overlooked sorcery from the era of dragons that has fallen out of practice. You fuse your mana with your lifeblood, allow it to make contact with the blade, and, subsequently, you lose consciousness and float within this eternal dream realm until the genuine name of the weapon discloses itself to you. The reality is, this ceremony is exceedingly perilous, therefore hazardous. The world essentially overlooked its very existence due to the continuous fatalities associated with it. Nevertheless, here stands Zeke executing it flawlessly, while Galleon is inwardly panicking, pondering how this young individual is even aware of this. Zeke's form collapses as he loses consciousness, and he discovers himself adrift in this boundless emptiness with an unending tempest of titles merely whirling around him. He's floating there seeking for the appropriate one when abruptly it taps Obsidian Blade Bahamut. A notification verifies that it has been recorded, and Zeke's eyes fly open. He has returned to the real world, and crimson mana dances around the blade like fire. Then it strikes him that out of every conceivable name, he selected Bahamut, the designation of a malevolent dragon infamous for devastation. He's thinking, seriously, what is truly wrong with me? Galleon advances, appearing thoroughly astonished, remarking that even the dwarves scarcely recall the existence of the sword naming ceremony, much less the method to carry it out. Zeke engages. It's effortless, casually mentioning that he stumbled upon it while examining some ancient dragon lore manuscripts. He casts a glance at his encased hand and laughs about how it's been ages since he last required a dressing for anything. Galleon inclines his head slightly and advises him to recuperate while he fetches something. He has been intending to present it to him, and while waiting, Zeke comes to the realization that he can now deactivate his passive abilities, which is significant, as it signifies he can conceal his talents at will, instead of traversing as a mobile status display, exposing all to anyone possessing analytical abilities. Subsequently, he gazes at the blade, and an additional notification emerges, indicating that certain attributes are restricted and will become accessible as his strength increases. Zeke is astonished. He has never encountered an armament that genuinely develops alongside the wielder, as if it possesses its own skill progression. Furthermore, it's entirely impervious and originated as a dragon's tooth, yet metamorphosed into something completely distinct via the ceremony. Cyan mana intertwines with the crimson, both spiraling around the sword in unison now. Yet what truly holds significance for Zeke is the aura transformation capability, and this is where it becomes astonishing. Observe, our son was brought into the world devoid of the capacity to harness aura entirely. A total genetic anomaly, and this blade has the capability to transform his unrefined mana into pristine aura, which is what renders it truly iconic. As he holds tightly, the grip more secure, the azure mana blazes even more intensely, and he contemplates how this blade is precisely what elevates him from the Violet Knight rank directly to the Crimson Knight tier. Galleon returns breathless, declaring that he has at last just discovered what he sought. Subsequently, he observes Zeke merely lingering. They're enveloped by that radiant aura and comes to a sudden halt. With this triumphant grin, asserting that Zeke has completely exceeded the purple light tier. Zeke gazes at the blade, murmuring, "This object is utterly absurd," giving Galleon credit for surpassing himself entirely. Galleon chuckles it off, remarking that in comparison to constructing that outrageous dragon furnace, this was the straightforward segment. Then extends this tiny metallic scarab object. Zeke is inquisitive, and Galleon elucidates. His creator fashioned it. That's the moment it dawns on Zeke. The commander of the Galleon was Gal, alongside Jobbert, an extraordinary icon in the realm of metallurgy, truly superior to even the most renowned dwarven craftsman. His masterpieces hold greater value than complete aristocratic properties. Galleon demonstrates its functionality. You rotate the gauge on the beetle, and suddenly, it metamorphoses into a comprehensive barrier crafted from mithril and wyvern bone that can withstand nearly anything you hurl. Manipulate it. Rotate it once more, and it compresses seamlessly back into its diminutive scarab shape. Galleon presents it to Zeke, asserting that it falls significantly short of compensating for his generosity, yet he wishes he'll take it regardless. Zeke's like, "Dude, you realize you could have marketed this item and constructed yourself like 3 new stoves, correct?" However, Galleon insists there's no chance he would part with something his master meticulously created for just anyone. When Zeke highlights that it holds a value of tens of thousands of gold coins, Galleon is truly taken aback by the precise figure, but merely shrugs, remarking that this only enhances his honor if Zeke were to receive it as a present. Zeke seizes the scarab and sets it upon the blade. Immediately, he experiences a potent wave of vitality coursing through both objects. He understands this is far more than it appears at first glance, and express gratitude to Galleon appropriately, who is simply pleased that our son enjoys it. Back in the training facility, Zeke unboxes one of his treasure chests and extracts a pair of weighty obsidian gauntlets crafted from meteoric material, iron, which is exceedingly scarce and almost unattainable to purify effectively. A notification appears indicating that there is a unique skill restricted on them that necessitates the complete meteoric iron armor ensemble to function. Zeke understands that these are not merely arbitrary loot distributions, they originated from those unexpected quest rewards, and he would presume they were merely standard treasure chest filler artifacts. Clearly, he was entirely mistaken regarding that. He shifts, with curiosity completely consuming him. He opens the second box, and his eyes widen in astonishment. What in the world is this? Robert anticipated discovering an impressive weapon, but alas, it's merely a faded ancient map. Prior to him experiencing genuine disappointment, the system strikes him with an alert indicating he has just activated a map associated with an individual known as Grandmaster Kaiser. That name sounds familiar, and Zeke is connecting the dots. He is coming to the conclusion that this could be linked to the legendary King Kaiser. Are you familiar with that iconic figure from the ancient legends surrounding the Knights of the Clock Tower, who is said to have established the entire realm of Krons? The majority of individuals believe that the narrative is nothing but a fantastical fabrication, yet at this moment, Zeke is saying, wait a minute, what if this individual truly existed? Prior to that, he can delve excessively into conspiracy theories. Another alert appears indicating that the analysis is finished, and markers appear on his mini-map indicating a direct route to the Colossal Mountains, which, by the way, lie deep within barbarian lands where few dare to venture. Yet Zeke is genuinely smiling because he identifies the notices and contemplates that perhaps this won't be the dreaded journey he anticipated. Subsequently, the system enters complete information release mode. The instructional phase has officially concluded. Due to his abilities, he has acquired a prospective quest artifact, and he merely accessed the accomplishment mission information. As he peruses the content, Zeke begins to piece together the clues. This entire tutorial wasn't a simplistic introductory phase. It was intentionally crafted to enhance his statistics and skills for whatever turmoil lies ahead. The concluding message verifies it. The instruction for an entry-level administrator is set to commence. Zeke remains unfazed, aware that the gentle treatment has ceased. He examines the list of rewards, and his eyes brighten as these prizes are on an entirely different tier compared to the junk he has been receiving. He pops his knuckles and accesses his status menu, finally prepared to allocate the points he has been accumulating. The system reacts immediately. 50 points are expended to access level 2. Authoritarian abilities are acquired, while Bro unlocks and enhances several skills, reserving 400 points for future use. A further alert, Draconian ability engaged. Zeke gazes downward as his hand begins to transform into a fearsome, scaled dragon claw. He opts to experiment with it and releases an explosion. The utter, devastating power astonishes even him. It is significantly more powerful than expected. He then seizes his sword and engages his dragon scale armor, and immediately these smooth, formidable scales undulate over his entire form, creating a safeguarding barrier to assess it. This lunatic brandishes his weapon with maximum force directly at himself. Instead of becoming sashimi, the blow merely ricochets off harmlessly. He didn't even imbue that strike with aura, and it didn't leave a solitary mark. To Zeke, the resilience of this armor feels akin to donning fortified plate mail while completely unclothed. He registers a mental reminder: Dragon Claw for offense, Dragon Scale Armor for defense. With this newly acquired enhancement, he realizes that everything has transformed, and the genuine competition is on the verge of commencing. Transition to Regressor Academy's primary training facility, where trainees are positioned in formation, appearing extremely anxious while the instructors establish the rules. He motions towards these anthropomorphic training mannequins that are far from typical rehearsal apparatus. These items are designed to endure severe abuse, and direct physical assaults won't even leave a mark on them. And that's the crux of the matter, because if you can't even make an impression on your practice target, you inevitably falter. This implies a return to fundamental training like a novice. The proclamation strikes hard, and murmurs spread throughout the assembly as no one desires to begin anew after having progressed this far. The teacher announces the name Aaron, and the unfortunate fellow steps up, appearing unsteady yet resolute. Owen observes from the periphery, and this scoundrel can't resist the urge to mentally show off, contemplating how the very basis of aura education at this institution was established by his lineage, the Zimmons. Thus, even if an individual were a natural awakener, they would not reach his level of mastery, as hereditary advantage significantly influences outcomes. Subsequently, Owen's name is announced. He advances forward, with complete assurance, sketches his blade and begins harnessing energy. A student exclaims, "Hold on, is that the resonance of the sword?" One educator raises an eyebrow, truly astonished, commenting that at 13, that's quite uncommon. Another agrees with a nod, suggesting, of course, it adds up. He hails from the Simon lineage. Owen scarcely hesitates before forcefully striking his blade into the target, fragmenting it effortlessly in a seamless motion. Chuckles and clamor burst forth, and a sense of pride swells within him as he casts a sidelong glance at Abel with that conceited expression. The teacher applauds once, exclaiming, "Excellent, remarkable." Furthermore, Owen is virtually radiant as he approaches Abel, offering him a playful shoulder tap while preparing to utter something arrogant. However, Owen swiftly interrupts, swatting his hand aside and advising him not to be so self-satisfied, as it's simply impolite and bothersome. As the queue continues to progress, the educators begin to observe something unusual, despite the fact that no one is explicitly struggling. A group of trainees appears unsettled, evidently unsettled by Owen's display, establishing an absurdly elevated standard. From the periphery, Rain is silently watching, observing that although each pupil in the specialized class is capable of harnessing aura, only a handful truly distinguishes themselves. She inhales deeply and advances, "Mentor, I have a favor to ask." He pivots towards her inquiring, "What's the matter?" And she states serenely, "I would prefer to be assessed according to the criteria of dragon slaying mastery." The instructor's brow arches in surprise because that evaluation method is designated for top-tier cadets and is significantly more rigorous, prompting him to inquire whether she truly comprehends what she is committing to. Reina affirms, expressing that she is well aware, yet still wishes to pursue the challenge. Meanwhile, Owen, this misguided fool, begins to ponder however since she became a pure-blood awakener, she has grown audacious, perhaps excessively so. He recognizes that dragon-slaying techniques represent an entirely different challenge, where each strike necessitates impeccable control, harmonizing aura flow with absolute accuracy, and a single misstep could ruin the entire endeavor. Owen internally scoffs, convinced that she'll be fortunate to execute a few strikes before her aura is completely depleted. He suspects that she is undertaking all of this to rival him. In the meantime, the teacher inquires once more if she is entirely certain about her decision, as failure will have consequences for her. However, she has resolved her decision, leaving no option for reversal. Subsequently, she unsheathes her blade and immediately begins annihilating the mannequins, and once she completed her task, there was not remaining. Learners begin conversing with one another, expressing how she truly operates in a category of her own, and this envious scoundrel was muttering quietly. Subsequently, Reina directs her blade toward the assembly. He believes that she is ridiculing him, but no, she didn't care in the slightest about him since she was indicating our son. Fine. Zeke is positioned there, comprehending what Reina just executed, and he's thinking, here it comes. He understands that if he retreats at this moment, this girl will make his life miserable indefinitely. Therefore, he raises his hand and declares his desire to participate in the dragon-slaying arts assessment as well. One of the teachers swiftly casts him a glance that conveys, "Really, are you being serious at this moment? Do you believe this is some kind of jest merely because Reina made it seem effortless? She's a pureblood who has awakened her child." But before this guy can complete his discourse, another instructor interjects, stating that Zeke will encounter the same circumstances Reina faced, inquiring if he's fine with that. Zeke merely nods as if it's no big deal. To the side, one educator is murmuring, "Hey, who is this youngster? I've never encountered him in class," and the lead teacher is briefing him. It appears that Zeke triumphed in a wager with instructor Andre, and he is the radiant, unblemished lineage individual who unexpectedly emerged and utterly surpassed Abel's record during the dungeon escape assessment. Zeke advances with his blade, and precisely as he is poised to strike, a system alert appears stating Ether's existence, transformed into essence. Azure vitality begins to spiral around his sword, and he clenches his jaw, contemplating that controlling this surge of of energy remains challenging, yet it ought to suffice. Reina observes from the periphery, and her gaze expands as she instantly identifies the posture. Dragon Vanquishing Techniques Chapter 1 Verse 4, Celestial Cleave. She is contemplating. This scoundrel didn't merely acquire it. He's perfected the wretched skill, and his performance could potentially rival that of Instructor Andres. Zeke strikes, and the dummies simply shatter into fragments. Within his thoughts, he is contemplating how this method is not merely something he casually acquired. It has genuinely become an integral aspect of him now. Following incessant practice for 2 years prior to his decline, until it transformed into sheer muscle memory, he exhales slowly, reflecting on a period when he considered dragon slaying techniques to be utterly tedious. However, embarking on a fresh beginning, it no longer seems so monotonous, and perhaps that minor display was sufficient to rattle Reina slightly. The educators begin to unravel, one highlighting how Zeke enveloped his weapon in energy, another discussing the astonishing ferocity of that clash, and the murmurs continue to amplify, with certain individuals speculating if this youth is already nearing the Purple Knight level. Zeke casts his gaze at the devastation, mumbling that he may have exceeded his limits. It appears some of his energy escaped his control without his awareness, as he merely aimed to align himself with Reina, not to seize the spotlight. One mentor is merely observing the havoc, commenting that a first year has already attained purple status. Warrior, as Owen observes from the sidelines, with his hand balled into a tight fist, likely drawing blood, and Reina is positioned there with this unsettling grin stretching across her features. The spectacle transitions to the headmaster's chamber, where the elderly gentleman is brewing tea and nonchalantly mentioning Zeke's extraordinary test scores. Zeke maintains a modest demeanor, claiming he merely experienced good fortune, yet the headmaster laughs heartily like a child. Becoming a Violet Knight at the age of 13 isn't mere chance. Then he reveals the actual surprise. How would Zeke react to the prospect of undertaking the Great Acceleration Assessment? Zeke blinks, comprehending that this implies bypassing grades, and the headmaster elucidates that the system permits this when a student's proficiency warrants it. It might be one level or perhaps even several, contingent on your performance. Zeke believes the headmaster is advancing much quicker than he anticipated, yet it is logical given the substantial impact he created beyond his original intentions, so he acquiesces with a courteous grin, completely aware that he's entering a dubious situation. As he departs, he murmurs that the principal is certainly scheming something, yet he will go along for the time being. Upon returning indoors, the principal faces an individual positioned opposite him, mentioning both Reina Draker and Zeke. Draker, genuine-blooded awakeners have consented to undertake the assessment, and the individual gestures affirmatively, indicating that they will manage the preparations, while the principal clasps his hands together with a subtle grin, sensing that events are poised to become truly captivating. Transition to the elite ambience training facility, where Zeke and Reina are positioned next to each other, and the atmosphere is incredibly charged with Reina glaring at Zeke with an intense, intimidating gaze. He releases a soft exhale, pondering, would it be so difficult for you to cease gazing? Then a voice emerges, expressing regret for the tardiness, and a towering figure clad in gleaming armor strides in. Sir Al Draker, the appointed assessor and knight of the Draker esteemed lineage. Zeke's entire demeanor transforms the moment he lays eyes on him, murmuring the name and pondering, is it possible? Could it genuinely be him? The individual they once referred to as Diebackblade. A recollection strikes the frigid evening atmosphere, the burden of a lifeless corpse in his grasp, digits, excavating soil to create a burial site. In that recollection, an alternate iteration of Zeke, Murray approaches and halts, murmuring, the Empire's lackey prior to approaching the corpse and crouching down with a spade. He asserts that, regardless of the man's advice against it, he would still assist in interring them. Introduces, identifying as Zeke Murray from the Northern Coalition forces, and subsequently inquires whether the gentleman is a Draker. The individual shakes his head, expressing that life has passed him by, and Zeke chuckles, inquiring how to refer to him then. The man responds with unwavering confidence, Diebackblade. The recollection dwindles, and Zeke finds himself back in the moment, murmuring that the title suits him all too perfectly. He shakes off his reverie as the formal proceedings commence. Both he and Reina execute a profound bow, uttering, Sir Draker. An educator advances, outlining the examination guidelines that adhere to the alumni cradle technique, a blade confrontation with no time constraints that concludes solely when one party surrenders or is incapacitated, so give it your all. Reina promptly advances, declaring her intention to proceed first, yet Dieback composedly lifts his hand and asserts that there's no necessity for alternation. They ought to both approach him simultaneously. Upon realizing that both Zeke and Reina abruptly halted, he thought, wait a minute, that's not how events typically unfold. Zeke glances at Reina with the utmost disinterest and remarks, her to relax since there's a significant disparity in abilities, and whether they appreciate it or not, the examination has already commenced. Reina casts him a glare that could slay, yet our guy remains utterly unfazed. He directly informs her that charging in recklessly will jeopardize her score. She remains silent, simply gazing forward with a serious demeanor, while Zeke conceals a faint smile, pondering, alright, that's fine. At the very least, she isn't entirely foolish. He inclines closer, remarking that they merely require require one effective strike, and he has already devised a plan to execute it. They both assume their stances. Owen unsheathes his blade resembling a katana, and, for some peculiar reason, Reina's self-esteem suffered a blow from the entire collective battle experience, yet her arrogance won't secure victory in this battle. This isn't a noble confrontation or a contest of bravado. They possess a strategy, so simply adhere to it. They enter, and chaos ensues. In an instant, blades collide with astonishing velocity and force, metal shrieking as they're both going completely berserk on dieback simultaneously. Reina's clenching her teeth tightly, contemplating, so this is the sensation of true dominance. 4. As Zeke mentioned, she has been targeting vulnerable areas but has failed to make contact even once. Disregard concerning inflicting genuine harm. Thus, our protagonist chooses to unleash his dragon-slaying skills, and Reina follows suit. Horror. The blade begins to radiate with an intense azure energy as this strike requires purpose. No doubt about it. Homicidal energy. She surges ahead, weapon cutting through the atmosphere, yet dieback effortlessly glides to the side as smooth as cream, then intercepts and utterly dismantles Reina from the flank. Her protection collapses. As though it were constructed from parchment, crimson bursts in every direction, and she crashes into the earth forcefully. The coach panics, shouting to verify if Reina is alright, and she hauls herself up, claiming she's alright, yet cautioning everyone should retreat, as this is highly suspicious. Agreed? Then, a realization dawns on her. She immediately fainted momentarily, and if she is unable to remain alert, how on earth is she going to create an introduction? She understands it. Now with what she possesses at this moment, she has absolutely no chance of triumphing. Reina's. Her eyes narrow sharply, appearing furious as there's absolutely no chance she's resorting to such a petty tactic. She has no intention of undermining the integrity of a genuine battle with underhanded tactics. Zeke merely shrugs, showing not an ounce of concern, asserting that honor does not provide sustenance. This isn't some whimsical tale, it's an evaluation to determine if they can truly eliminate targets, followed by a slap on her shoulder in that manner. Concludes the conversation. Reina releases an exasperated breath, recalling that she was the one who sought his assistance. Yet, does this guy genuinely believe that merely formulating a strategy can triumph over a creature like dieback? Zeke's assurance remains unyielding. They're not aiming to overpower him, only to create a small opportunity for a single effective strike. That is quite literally all they need to accomplish. He recalls their altercation from earlier, questioning why she didn't seize the rope, and Reina shoots him a fierce look, reminiscing, "I didn't expect you to pull that sort of stunt." "Precisely," he responds, "and neither will dieback," slinging his sword over his shoulder. Zeke gestures towards her, instructing her to await his cue because they will only have a single opportunity. Then, without allowing her to respond, he sprints off like a lunatic. The tip of his sword ignites as dragon-slaying maneuvers engage, energy coursing along the blade as if it were ablaze, and dieback's gaze sharpens, recognizing the tactic characteristic of Sir Dexter. With remarkable grace, he evades. Yet Zeke is grinning, contemplating, no longer indulging the pleasant elderly gentleman. Their blades collide, and a burst of radiance erupts between them, causing dieback to momentarily falter. Recoiling for an instant, perceiving a glimmer in the mana, his eyes widen, acknowledging mana legacy. The pristine radiance of a genuine awakening is saturating the entire room in a dazzling burst. Dieback mutters that mere brightness won't suffice, but there's uncertainty creeping in. How on earth is Zeke still maneuvering so effortlessly within this whirling obscurity? Shadows are engulfing all, yet he's gliding as if the illumination remains concealing. In the pitch darkness, Zeke allows a subtle grin to emerge, contemplating that this is the ideal opportunity to test his newfound dragon ability. Dieback becomes apprehensive, as this level of power is not typical for a first-year student, but Zeke is no longer battling like one. He gazes at Reina, who remains ensnared in the shadows. Unlike Zeke, she is unable to spot Jack in this place. Now he's pondering whether all that strength Zeke just unleashed was merely an illusion to deceive him. It's a ploy that typically succeeds solely on novices. But then Zeke strikes him once more, and dieback narrowly evades. But there's something off. Zeke's. The tempo remains unwavering, his tracks are fluid, clever, and incredibly incisive, and then he simply vanishes into oblivion. Dieback whirls around, searching, yet there's nothing, merely a vague silhouette drifting akin to vapor and moonbeams with luminous trails winding through the darkness. Unusual noises resonate throughout the corridor, motion originating from every direction as Zeke's entire aura seamlessly merges into this impeccable ruse, while dieback grits his teeth in disbelief at what his body is conveying. Subsequently, Zeke reappears, weapon poised, gaze icy, grin fixed, and he swings. Suddenly, sirens blare. This deafening clamor pierces the corridor, and dieback's mind activates, identifying a type of one-shot device composed of basic components and a compact design where the enchantment within doesn't require destruction, merely illumination and noise sufficient to incapacitate someone severely. A tremendous explosion. As it erupts, Zeke raises his arms to shield his ears while Reina seizes her opportunity. The din crashes into dieback like a freight vehicle, causing him to stagger, his hands flying to his skull, uttering an expletive for having underestimated her, and now he's paying the price for it. Reina and Zeke rush in simultaneously, blades radiating as they unleash a maneuver from Dragon Vanquishing Ground. Chapter 4 Verse 1. The luminous orb and twin bands of power cleave the atmosphere, poised to complete this entire task. Therefore, the entire altercation has concluded, and individuals are hurriedly maneuvering with gurneys to drag Reina and Zeke's barely conscious bodies out of that place. In the meantime, one of the trainers approaches Al, giving him a reassuring pat on the back as if to say, "Great performance out there," and, at that moment, Dexter saunters in, appearing completely relaxed as he glances at Al and inquires, "Did you truly need to be so harsh on a few youngsters?" The Owl promptly descends into a dignified bow, greeting the inebriated Duke with utmost propriety and reverence. However, you understand that Dexter man is entirely indifferent to conventions. He simply places a hand on Owl's shoulder and inquires directly, "So, how is my pupil?" And I assure you, the expression on Owl's face is invaluable. The guy is experiencing a complete existential dilemma. His thoughts are racing back to the instant when Zeke abruptly hurled his own sword merely to intercept Owl's strike. He reflects, this kid surely had the opportunity to counterattack. He possessed the opening, he had the talent, so why didn't he? At that moment, it dawns on Owl that this diminutive creature was merely demonstrating skills he believed were suitable for the confrontation, as if our protagonist were intentionally restraining himself. Consequently, Owl adopts a grave demeanor, gazes intently at the inebriated Duke, and proclaims that the young man exceeds my ability to assess. Transition to the progress meeting where the dean is inquiring of all the educators their opinions on elevating Zeke and Reina. Furthermore, following the observation of our son's display, all individuals are casting affirmative votes without reluctance. Consequently, Reina advances to 3rd grade, while Zeke leaps directly into 5th grade. At this point, Zeke has already executed one outrageous feat after another, leading him to conclude, "You know what? I think I'll take a breather for a while and refrain from bothering anyone." In this tranquil period, he acquires all the exceptional techniques from the Dexter and nurtures a strong camaraderie with Four Eyes, but ultimately, the guys are simply too exceptional for this environment. The Royal Enchantment Academy arrives, seeking to enlist Four Eyes. Thus, Zeke must bid farewell to him. As Zeke maintains a low profile and refrains from instigating turmoil, the 3 remarkable plans finally grant him some peace. However, Owl, no way, this individual is fixated. He appears relentlessly each quarter requesting a re-evaluation, and similarly, in just 2 short years, Zeke completed his studies at the academy. He came back home. Our footage concludes at this point. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Until next time, farewell.